Time, the silent herald of life and death, success or failure, the unseen force that measures man's destiny, reaching its most fateful moment as it slowly strikes the 11th hour.
There's no hurry to get home.
Who can relax in this mess of traffic? Must be a wreck or something up ahead.
If this keeps up, we'll get caught in the rain.
Looks like a big storm building up, too. Hey, remember that shortcut?
Which one?
Little tarred road that goes across through Centerville and comes out on the other highway.
Oh, yes, the one we took last summer.
Yes, that's right. I'll turn off there and get out of this jam. I'd like to get as far as possible before that storm hits us.
Why don't you put out your hand?
Oh, don't get mad.
He cut right in front of me to turn to that garage.
Well, perhaps he needed petrol. Do we have plenty?
What? No, I'll have to stop and get some. Turn on the radio, shall we?
All right.
Police this afternoon issued 2 warnings to all residents to be on the
like
lookout for Nellie Gullar, a middle-aged woman described as dangerous and insane. She escaped this morning from Rescue Mental Hospital after fatally butchering a doctor, a nurse, and a ward attendant with a meat cleaver. This is the same Nellie Gullar who a year ago murdered 3 persons on a city street, also using a meat cleaver as a weapon at that time.
My mother-in-law.
This station will broadcast a full description on our regular news.
I'm kidding. At least we aren't the only crazy people around.
Anyone who may know of the whereabouts of this woman is asked to communicate with the police.
How'd you change it?
I didn't want to listen anymore. Let's get home quickly. I don't like being out here with that woman running loose.
There's the storm. Wind up the windows. Now what?
What's wrong?
I don't know. Police all over the road.
Oh, I suppose they're looking for that crazy woman.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Hold it a minute.
What's up, officer?
Just a check. Anything in the back seat?
Just the blanket in the lunchbox.
We went for a picnic.
Yes, ma'am. Seen any hitchhikers?
No, just traffic.
Okay. Move right along, please.
Are you looking for the crazy woman?
Move along. Come on, let's go.
He didn't answer.
He's busy.
What are you doing?
Listen.
All residents and motorists are warned to be on the alert for the escaped insane woman. She is described as tall, broad-shouldered, grey-haired, and rather heavy. She may still be armed with a meat cleaver. 100 men are searching, and they're prepared to shoot on sight. Now, here's another bulletin on the case which just came in. Just a few minutes ago, the decapitated bodies of an elderly man and woman were found by police near Centerville.
There's that shortcut.
I repeat,
They haven't found
the bodies
him.
of an elderly
Well, that's
couple
to get us out of that
found in
traffic.
a car near Centerville on a lonely tarred road. Police are certain they were killed by Nellie Gullar, the insane woman now at large. Residents of the area are warned not to open their doors to strangers. Motorists are cautioned to stay off lonely roads and not pick up any hitchhikers. All persons are asked to be on the lookout for this woman.
They haven't
Here is
caught her
description
yet.
again.
No.
She is tall,
Turn it off,
grey-haired,
Dorothy.
has broad shoulders and long arms. She is believed to be armed with the meat cleaver, which she used in her escape.
Go on, turn it
from
off.
You wanted to hear it.
Well, that's enough of it. Well, this shortcut will save us a lot of time.
You've driven off the highway.
Yeah, sure, I told you when I did it. We've come over a mile already. Saves a lot of time.
Didn't you hear what the radio said about staying off lonely roads?
We just have to go across to the other highway. It won't take long.
Sure?
Of course. We go past Centerville, then take the left road and come out right by the highway bridge.
Centerville is where she just killed those two people.
Oh, you're acting like a child. What can happen to us while we're driving? Besides, the whole area is full of men looking for this lunatic. They'll catch him. It's the storm. Jumpy.
Oh, I suppose I'm silly. David.
What?
The petrol gauge says empty.
There's still a couple of gallons left when it points to empty.
How long has it been at empty?
Well, I don't know. I'll get some when we get across to the other highway.
Scared.
Relax, darling. Rain and wind always make you as nervous as a cat. It's all right.
I wish we'd stayed on the highway.
There's something ahead.
Wait, don't stop.
It's only a sign.
That crazy woman could be round
Look,
here.
I'm not picking up anyone. I just want to know where I am.
Don't get out of the car.
I'm not. Calm down, will you? Centerville that way. I'll take this road.
Centerville. This must be the road where she killed those people.
Dorothy, please.
I'm sorry, I'm jumping. I'm sure this is the road where she killed those people.
Look, will you stop
Why
it,
the
Dorothy?
police had a roadblock. The crazy woman might be anywhere in these woods.
Yes, but not necessarily where we are. Oh.
What's the matter?
Ah, fine. What a place to run out of juice.
No. You mean we're stuck here?
Well, for the time being, anyway.
The crazy woman is in the woods. She'll kill us.
Look, she's nowhere near us. Will you calm down?
Quick, turn off the headlights.
What? Did you see something?
I don't know. I don't know. Oh, darling, I'm scared.
I should have got petrol.
Don't put on the headlights, please.
Why?
She'll see us if you do.
Oh, for Pete's sake. I'm putting them on.
Please, darling, please turn them off.
Listen, Dorothy, I don't want this silly thing to get the better of you.
Look at the headlights poking into the darkness at nothing but wet bushes and trees and rain falling. Please, darling.
Oh, all right. There, they're off. You feel better sitting in the dark?
Yes. Oh, if only the thunder and lightning would stop. And the rain.
Look, Dorothy, there's no sense sitting here all night. Now, it's only a few minutes past 10 o'clock. I'm going to walk up the road a bit, and there might be a house or something
You're
there.
not going to leave me here, I won't let you.
Well, Dorothy, we can't sit here in the middle of nowhere for the rest of the night.
We're safer here than out there. No, she's probably hiding in the woods, just waiting for a chance to kill us.
Oh, come on, Dorothy. Why should she be right where we've run out of juice?
Why can't she be here? Please stay in the car.
Oh. All right.
Quick, lock the doors inside.
Why, what? What is it?
What is it? Now she can't get in.
Look, she's nowhere near us.
Oh. Don't be mad at me, darling. I'm so scared.
If she's out there, she can easily smash the windows.
What? Oh, darling, don't scare me anymore. Look, I know I'm being silly, but I can't help it.
Oh, I'm sorry, darling. Come here. Let me put you. There we go.
Darling.
Now put your head on my shoulder. There.
Okay.
Go ahead and try to make you feel better. There.
So quiet and lonely here. I wish it were morning.
Look, Dorothy, I'll run up the road. There might be a house handy and we...
Please. David, listen. You hear that?
What? I don't hear anything.
Listen. There it is.
I don't hear it. Oh. It's a dog. A little dog barking.
Oh, David.
Oh. I guess it's only a lost dog, or perhaps there's a house nearby.
Oh, the crazy woman.
What?
He's out there.
Somebody at the back of the car.
It's her. She'll kill us.
Is the door locked on your side?
Yes. What if she breaks the window? She has a cleaver.
That flash of lightning. I saw somebody.
Is it the crazy woman?
I can't tell. She's lying on the road.
Can you see her? Is she still there?
It's too dark to see. To wait for the lightning. Yes, I saw her. She's getting up now.
She'll kill us.
Look, calm down now, please.
What's she doing?
I don't know. She must have been running. She didn't see the car and ran right into it.
David! She's at the window.
Oh, I don't. Get away from that window.
She's trying to get into the car.
Oh, look at that face in her hair. Go away!
I'm not crazy. The crazy woman's out. Don't let her in.
Maybe we can scare her. Look, you go away. We've got a gun. We'll shoot.
It worked. She's staring at us.
I'm on here. I'll shoot.
She's coming back.
Please, don't leave me out here, please. That woman will kill me. Please.
Take your pipe and hold it like a gun. It'll look like a gun.
Where is it? Oh, give it to me, quick. Now, look. I've got a gun. I'm going to shoot.
Backing away.
Keep going before I start shooting.
She's gone. She's disappeared.
Well, we can't get out now. We can just sit here all night and wait for help.
Can you see her? Where'd she go?
I don't know. She's out there. We'll be planning how to get into this car.
What are we going to do? She's the one I know. But she didn't have a cleaver.
Well, she must have dropped it when she ran into the car.
Her face was all twisted and her hair hanging down.
She must be back there looking for the cleaver now.
She'll kill us. She'll kill us.
Dorothy, now stop it. Stop it, Dorothy.
She'll kill us. The window. She's broken the window.
Get away from there. Stay out of this car now.
I'm coming in. I can't stand it out here.
Stay out of the car. I warn you, I've got a gun.
You wouldn't shoot me.
Go away. You're crazy. We know all about you.
I'm not the crazy woman. Believe me. Let me in.
Don't do it, David. She's trying to trick
Oh,
us.
listen to me, please. I've been running in this awful storm. My car's stuck in the ditch back there.
How far back?
I don't know. It seems like miles. I heard about the crazy woman on the radio. I was afraid to stay in the car alone. Oh, please let me in.
No, David, no.
Go back to your own car.
No, it's so dark and so lonely. This awful storm. I locked the doors, but I was afraid I could see things and hear things in the dark, and I couldn't stand it anymore. I just got out and ran. It's the rain. That's why I look like this. I'm not the crazy woman. Let me in, please. Let me in.
Perhaps she isn't a crazy woman. Perhaps she's just scared and exhausted.
No, she's the one I know.
Oh, look, the crazy woman has a cleaver. I'm not armed. The three of us will be safer together.
That makes sense to me, Dorothy. We would be safer with one more person.
Oh, look, let me in. Please, I'm wet to the skin.
I'm going to unlock the door, Dorothy. All right, get in. But make one move and I'll shoot you.
Oh, dear. Oh, it's so good to sit down.
Well, there's a blanket on the floor back there, which you try and dry yourself with it.
Oh, the darkness and the rain. It was enough to drive me out of my mind.
Well, try and rest.
I just ran and ran. All I could hear was feet chasing after me, hunting me.
Well, just take it easy. You're all right now. Do you live near here?
Farther out, near Restview. I used to live in the city.
Restview is the mental hospital.
Yes, I know. I'm used to the crazy people, but not at night in a lonely place like this. Not the kind who kill people.
You live at Restview?
Oh, no. No, just near there.
David, we can't sit here not knowing. If we could get to a phone.
A phone? Why?
To call the police to get some help.
No, don't do that.
Well, why not? Why don't you want the police called?
I do, but you'd be killed.
What?
That woman, she'll kill him if he goes away from this car.
There's the dog again. Do you hear it?
Somebody's out there.
Well, might be a house nearby. Perhaps it's barking to be let in.
It senses somebody. There's somebody out there. That's why it's barking.
The crazy woman's creeping around out there.
Quick, let's get away before we're caught. Look out, David.
Well, let me go. What are you trying to do?
Stop the car, quick, we'll get away.
We're out of petrol.
Out of petrol?
Well, you don't think we parked here for the fun of it, do you?
Stop barking.
What does it mean?
We're so helpless. She could kill us easily.
Just can't sit there. We've got to get away.
Look, I'm not a magician, madam. I can't make petrol out of
Look,
rain.
We can't stay here the whole night. Do you hear me?
Look, let me go. There's nothing I can do.
Well, try something, anything. Just don't sit there.
David, stop us.
Oh, cut it out, will you? You have us all in hysterics.
All right. I'm sorry.
I think so.
Look, I've got an idea. Give me your gun.
Why?
Why? I'll tell you why. I can't sit here all night. I'll go mad. But give me the gun and then I'll go. I won't be afraid of the dark and the feet following me. I'll go, I promise you, but give me the gun.
No, sit down.
Oh, please. I'll go, I promise. I can't stand sitting in the dark like this.
Make us stop.
Yes, I told you to shut up, and now if you don't, I'll make you get out of the car.
You wouldn't. Not unarmed. Not into the woods again. You're nice people, aren't you? Or do you want me to leave you so you can shoot me? Is that it?
Stop it. We're not going to shoot you. We haven't got a gun. It's only a pipe.
Dorothy, you...
Pipe? A smoking pipe?
I'm sorry.
Then you're unarmed. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's all right.
Why did you tell me you had a gun?
Why does it make any difference to you whether I'm armed or not?
I don't know you. Perhaps you two are more dangerous than the crazy woman.
I'll tell you what I think. I think you're the crazy one. The way you grabbed David when you wanted him to start the car.
Stop it, don't excite her.
Don't excite me. Why? Perhaps you think I'm dangerous. An old woman you took into your car. Two of you, and you're afraid of me.
No, we're not afraid of you. Now, you sit back in that seat and don't try anything. I'm watching you all the time.
Stop it. David, now's the time.
Time for what? What are you going to do? You two are up to something.
Oh, shut up. My wife meant now's the time to go for her.
No, I didn't. I mean, now's the time for us to escape. Can't you see? She's the one. She'll kill us.
You little...
Stop it. Now sit back in that seat.
You haven't got a gun.
No, I haven't, but I've got a knife.
David.
I've got a knife and it's sharp. Now, don't try any tricks.
All right. Threaten me. Watch me. While that woman's out there. All you can do is to sit and wait for her to make the next move.
She can kill us like that old man and woman. It must have been on this same road. They were in their car, too. They must have let her in.
We'll leave them, the three of us. Look, we'll walk. We'll stay close together. We'll be quiet. And anyone hiding in the woods won't hear us.
Don't get out of the car, David. We'll be killed.
How would we find our way? It's too dark.
Oh, we will. We'll find our way.
Look out there. The road's full of shadows.
Get her out of the car, David. She wants to kill us.
Kill you?
Hey, look, if you want to go, why don't you leave? You don't need us. We're willing to stay here until help comes.
I'd be helpless alone. If I had a gun or something. You'd mind.
Why doesn't somebody come? Where are the police?
Nobody will come. There's no one in these woods. They're deserted.
Oh, now, Dorothy, darling, please don't.
It was your idea to use this road. You wouldn't listen to me and stop for prayer.
Well, I couldn't help it. I got lost.
Oh, do something before we're murdered. Are you so helpless?
All right. I am going to do something. I'll go for help.
That's it. You get help.
Look.
What?
In her hand. I saw it in the moonlight. It glittered.
What is it?
Your wife's hysterical.
She's holding it. A piece of broken glass, long and pointed. See, she doesn't answer. She's just watching us. What's she waiting for?
It's from the broken window. That's where she got it.
So what if I have? I'm not going to sit here defenseless.
She's going to attack us.
Oh, don't be silly. It was all right for you to have a knife. Why can't I be armed?
Give me that.
Give it to you. You think I'm crazy? You couldn't protect us from anything.
We'll see about that.
David, what are you doing?
Why are you climbing over the seat?
Come now, I warn you. I'm through letting my wife be terrified. Now give me that glass.
Get away from me.
Once I'd left the car, you were going to butcher my wife with that broken glass, weren't you?
No!
David,
Give me the glass.
Lazy. Let me alone.
Hold her, don't let her go.
She's trying to cut my arm.
You kill me.
Drop that glass.
She dropped it. She dropped it.
Oh, gone crazy. Trying to kill me.
Like you were going to murder us.
I wasn't.
Hold her, David. Hold on to her.
Can't much longer.
I'm not crazy. Please believe me. You beat the knife. It's all.
Got my throat.
The knife, David. Use the knife.
Oh, 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 oh.
You killed her. You killed the crazy woman.
I couldn't help it. She was choking me. Let me get back there.
You're covered with blood.
She was going to kill us. There's lights. There's a car coming.
Hey there, you're in the car. Why are you parked there?
It's police.
We ran out of juice.
What a night to run out of juice. Couldn't have picked a better spot. What with that woman running around loose?
Officer, we wanted to kill you.
Farmer up the road, Cole. Said his dog's been barking or something.
No, well, we caught her.
Who?
The crazy woman, she's in the back seat. She's dead.
What? No, she's alive. Badly hurt, though.
She was trying to kill us.
We'll get her to a hospital. You come with
She
me.
was trying to kill us.
Lucky you didn't kill her. We captured that crazy woman half an hour ago. I don't know who this lady is. Come on, give me a hand with her.
Time. The silent herald of life and death. Success or failure. The unseen force that measures man's destiny, reaching its most fateful moment as it slowly strikes the 11th hour.
Time, the silent herald of life and death, success or failure, the unseen force that measures man's destiny, reaching its most fateful moment as it slowly strikes the 11th hour.
The judge was bored, the jury listless, the courtroom hot and airless that July afternoon as the voice of the prosecutor droned on, reeling out Edward Brown's confession of murder. The defense had made no effort to keep that confession from being admitted as evidence, so the trial was as good as over. Eddie Brown would hang. In the press gallery, I hadn't bothered making shorthand notes. I'd heard Eddie's confession before. He had, in fact, made it first to me. In the dock, the prisoner betrayed no sign that he was soon to drop a bomb and turn his trial into one of the most sensational I'd ever witnessed. No, Eddie's handsome 23-year-old face showed nothing. He listened impassively as Mr. Cecil Pollock, Crown Prosecutor, read the statement he had so willingly signed.
Attention to this passage. The prisoner says, the Soho shop was untenanted. I had been engaged by the owners to repaint the front of the building. They had given me the keys so I could change inside and store my paint and ladders in the back room. I stopped work early and was standing in front of the shop, killing time and looking at the passers-by, when a girl came down the street. She was wearing a summer frock and carrying a large handbag. She stopped and looked me over carefully. Then she opened her handbag, took out a packet of American cigarettes, and came over to me.
Hiya, Buster.
Hi.
You got a match, or do I have to use my own?
Sorry. The match is in the back room in my other clothes.
Uh-huh. Oh, well, what do you know? I haven't got a match in my purse at that.
Oh, if you wait a second, I'll get you one.
No hurry. That isn't why I stopped.
No?
No. Oh, look, I know this sounds kind of funny, but it isn't, see? I'm American. I've just been divorced. I got quite a nice little settlement out of the chump I was married to. And me and my girlfriend, Mabel, we decided to take a little trip.
Yeah.
Well, we came to London, first on account of you people understand American, even if you don't speak it. Well, we've been sitting up in our hotel room for 3 days, and not one man has spoken to us or even given us the eye. I don't know whether we've got the plague or they're just stuck up.
Oh, well...
anyway, I told Mabel I was sick of it. I was going out in the street and speak to the first good-looking man I saw and make him a proposition.
A proposition?
Oh, look, Buster, the kind of places we want to see in this town you can't get into without a man. Oh, we've got plenty of dough. We'll pay for everything and give you something for your time. We want a guide, see? Well, how about it?
I don't know. Guide's one thing, a giggler's another.
You're right, Buster. Make no mistake about it. What we want is a guide.
Yeah. Well, tell you what we'll do. Come inside. We'll have a cigarette and talk it over.
Oh, okay. Oh, gosh, it's kind of dark in here with a blind pulled.
Right. Give me a hand, I'll lead the way.
Maybe we should leave the door open.
Oh, don't be silly. Give me a hand.
In the following passage, the prisoner clearly states his motive. He says, while the girl, who subsequently identified herself as Juanita Bell, was rummaging in her purse for a match, I had seen a large roll of banknotes. In the back room, I tried to take the purse from her. She struggled and began to scream. I put my hands around her throat in an effort to silence her. I lost control and forgot the strength of my hands. The next thing I remember, she was lying slumped on the floor, dead. I ran out of the shop. I was so agitated by what I had done that I forgot to lock the door. Later, I threw the key into the Thames. I wandered around aimlessly, trying to think what to do. Finally, I went back to my rooming house and hurriedly began to pack, intending to run away. There was a knock at the door. I was half out of my mind with fear.
Who's there?
Inspector Clark, Scotland Yard. I'd like to talk to you, Mr. Brown.
Just a minute, I'm shaving.
Going somewhere, Mr. Brown?
No, I'm unpacking, as a matter of fact. I'm not going anywhere.
Oh, but you are, Mr. Brown. We'd like to have a word with you down at the yard. I understand you have the keys to a vacant shop in Soho.
Keys? Why, I did have them. I don't have them now. I gave them to a chap late this afternoon.
Oh? Who was this chap?
Well, he said he was a prospective tenant. Said he just wanted to look round. And the owners had told him to get the keys from me. I gave them to him and left before he did.
Can you describe this man?
Oh, he was just a man. Medium height, ordinary sort of face. And nothing very special about him.
I see. You can't tell us anything that would help us to identify him.
Yes, he was wearing a leather coat. A long leather coat like German officers wore.
I doubt that'll help us very much. A lot of soldiers brought those back from Germany after the war.
Oh, yes, I suppose they did.
Would you recognize this man again?
Yes, I think so.
Well, now, suppose you'll come along with me, Mr. Brown.
What for?
Just to help us, a little information and so forth. Good morning, Mr. Brown. Sleep well?
No, I didn't. You had no right to keep me here all night.
Sorry, but we thought it was necessary. Now, this shouldn't take very long. All right, Sergeant. You can start the men through the line-up now.
Walk out on the platform and stand facing the inspector. Turn sideways, showing your profile. Then go off the other side. All right, let's go now.
Look closely now. See if you recognize the man you gave the key to.
All right, Inspector.
You have no right to put me in a line-up. I haven't done anything.
That's him. That's the man in the leather coat.
What have I done? Who are you? What are you accusing me of?
That's the man I gave the key to. He killed her, Inspector. He killed her.
The prisoner's confession continues as follows. When the man I had falsely identified as the one to whom I had given the key was able to prove his whereabouts at the time of the murder, the inspector again turned his attention to me. Again and again I was questioned, but I stuck to my original statement that I had given my key to a man in a leather coat. After several days, I was released, for the police could not prove enough against me to bring me to trial. Over the next 2 years, I brooded about what I had done. In November of 1948, I went to the offices of a large London newspaper and asked to see Mr. Kent Rogers, the court reporter. I had often read his accounts of trials in the press.
Mr. Rogers? Yes? What's on your mind?
I want to confess to a murder.
Would you mind saying that again?
2 years ago, I strangled an American girl named Juanita Bell. The police couldn't prove I did it, so they released me.
Mr. Bell, if you're some kind of a crank trying to get publicity...
I'm not a crank. I can tell you exactly how I did it. Everything.
Yes, well, why tell me? Why don't you go to the police?
I like the way you write up trials in the newspaper. Got a nice style. Anyway, why are you complaining? It's a scoop for you, isn't it?
Yes. If it's true.
It's true, all right. Besides, I got another reason for telling you.
What reason?
Never mind. You just take down what I say. Then you can check with Inspector Clark at Scotland Yard. He handled the case before.
My lad, gentlemen of the jury, the prisoner, Edward Brown, stands convicted of murder out of his own mouth by his own voluntary statement. Therefore, the Crown need present no further evidence. And on these words, his own words, the Crown rests its case. Thank you.
Is counsel for the defence now ready to present his case?
Yes, my lord.
You may proceed, Mr. Sands.
Thank you. Gentlemen of the jury, in order to save the court's time, I will waive the customary opening remarks usually made by defence counsel. I will call my first and only witness, the defendant, Edward Brown.
We were surprised that the defense had decided to call the prisoner. There was a stir of interest in the court, but no sympathy crossed the faces of the jurors as Eddie Brown took the stand.
And now then, Mr. Brown, you have heard the statement read out in this court.
I have.
Is it the truth?
It's an absolute lie. Silence in court. Mr. Brown, do I understand that you repudiate your confession?
No, my lad. I said those things and signed my name to them, but they're all lies. I never saw Juanita Bell in my life. I gave the key to the shop to the man in the leather coat, just as I told the inspector at first.
You may proceed with your examination, Mr. Sands.
Thank you, my lad. Your confession is entirely false?
It is.
Yet you voluntarily made the statement to the police, and you made the same statement to the court reporter, Kent Rogers.
I did.
I see. Then tell me, why did you go to Rogers' office at the newspaper and tell him this story if it were not true?
For 2 years, I lived under suspicion. No one would employ me. My friends wouldn't associate with me. Yet, no charge had ever been laid against me. Therefore, I had no hope of ever clearing my name. I decided to confess so that I'd have to be brought to trial. That's why I told Mr. Rogers this story. That's why I'm here. To clear my name.
Mr. Pollock.
Yes, my lad.
In your closing remarks to the court, I understood you to say that you intend to offer no evidence other than the prisoner's confession. Is that correct?
Yes, my lad.
I see. Gentlemen of the jury, it is obvious that the defendant is a liar. But it is, of course, equally obvious that he cannot be convicted because of it.
Edward Brown, a self-confessed murderer, left the court a free man. The case of the curious confession would have ended up another of London's unsolved crimes, except for a strange course of events in which I was again to figure in my capacity as court reporter. It was almost 2 years later that I dropped into Scotland Yard late one afternoon to call on Inspector Clark.
Well, Rogers, haven't seen you for several weeks.
You haven't been in court lately?
No, I haven't. The way things are going, I may never get my present case to court. What's on your mind?
Oh, well, I'm doing a spot of crime reporting at the moment.
Yeah, is there a change as good as a holiday?
Well, I go a bit stale on court reporting. Like to get out among my raw material occasionally. See the people I write about before they appear in court. I'm covering the case you're working on now. Silk stocking murder.
You press chaps glamorize everything, sir. That stocking wasn't silk. It was Lyle. And the murdered woman was not young and beautiful, as she was written up. She was over 40. And she looked it.
Yes. We do colour the facts a little sometimes. After all, a Lyle stocking suggests, a housemaid. We couldn't call the case that. The Lyle stalking murder. It's not, euphonious, more glamorous.
You know the details, I suppose?
More or less, yes. But I'd like to hear them from you, just for the record.
Mary Sutton, bookkeeper, unmarried, had a basement flat in Victoria. During the night, somebody entered her flat with the intention of robbing her. She was in bed. She evidently awakened. The burglar grabbed the first thing handy, a stocking, and then strangled her with it. He then took what money he could find and left the flat. She was discovered the next morning by neighbors who had heard nothing at all during the night.
Any clues?
None. Sometimes, though, you get a break in the sort of case. At least that's what I've been telling myself. Come in.
There's a young woman outside who wants to see you, Inspector.
What about?
An RAF deserter.
Well, can't you handle it, Sergeant?
Well, yes, sir, but she's read about you in the paper, and she says talking to you will be more like talking to someone she knows.
Oh, for Pete's sake.
The penalty of fame, eh?
And who's responsible? You reporters. All right, Sergeant, send her in.
Yes, sir.
Oh, want me to step outside?
No, you can stay. I'll just have a word with her, then, and I'll pass her on to the sergeant.
You can go right in, Miss Caulfield.
Thank you.
Come in, miss.
Thank you. I'm Laura Caulfield, Inspector.
How do you do? This is Mr. Rogers.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Please sit down. Now then, miss, what's troubling you?
Well, it's about me young man. Or rather, he was my young man up until a few weeks ago. He had a few too many at the pub one evening, and he told me he was a deserter from the RAF. Well, naturally, I refused to see him after that. But he kept coming round and, well, threatening me. Well, I don't like it about his being a deserter, but I wouldn't put him in. I mean, I hate doing a thing like this. Only, you see, I'm afraid.
Afraid? Afraid of what?
Well, every night he comes and stands across the street and watches me window. If I go out, he stops me and we argue. Last night it was really wild. He hinted that he'd taken care of other girls who tried to throw him over and... Well, I'm afraid of him. I really am.
Yeah. Well, you're perfectly right in coming along to us. In fact, it'd be wrong of you if you hadn't come. Could have meant trouble for you.
That's what I thought.
You just go outside, tell all this to the sergeant, will you? Give me a name and address, and he'll arrange to have the young man picked up.
Oh, yes, sir. Look, I brought this along so you'd know him when you see him. It's a snap we had taken right after we first met. Here it is.
Oh, thank you. This will be quite a big help to us. Rogers.
Eh? Oh, yes, Inspector.
Take a look at this. Do you recognize him?
He does look a bit familiar, yes, but... No. Can't say that I do.
When you last saw him, he had no moustache, and he looked much younger. He had very much longer hair, not short-cropped like this.
Yes, of course.
Inspector...
Now, if you'll just run along, miss, and tell the sergeant all about it, we'll take care of everything.
Oh, well, all right, Inspector. Thanks very much.
Oh, miss, will you ask the sergeant just to step in here for a moment?
Yes, sir.
Say, that's a photo of Eddie Brown.
That's him, all right.
Always wondered what happened to him.
Young lady says you want to see me, sir.
Yes, keep her here while I go out and pick up her boyfriend.
But I thought you weren't going to handle it.
I've changed my mind. Have a car sent round. I shall be leaving at once.
All right, Inspector.
I'd like to go with you to pick him up.
I'm sure you would. Unfortunately, regulations won't quite permit that. Drop round in the morning. I'll let you have the story then. It'll be interesting to see Eddie Brown again. Good morning, Rogers.
Good morning, Inspector. The sergeant tells me you picked up Brown last night.
Well, he certainly did.
Anything in it for me?
One of the best stories you've ever struck. But you can't print it.
Oh. Why not,
Eddie Brown confessed to the silk stocking murder.
He what?
You heard me. He confessed to the murder of Mary Sutton. Just like he did in the Juanita Bell case.
I say, this is getting a bit of a habit, isn't
You
it?
can say that again. His case beginning to follow an all too familiar pattern. He got away with it once, and he might do so again.
You don't mean it.
I'm afraid I do. You can't print that he's been tried for murder before, nor can that fact be introduced as evidence at his trial.
No, that's true.
It's a fundamental tenet of British law. The jury can't be told of a defendant's previous conviction or trial.
Let me see him, Inspector. Maybe I can...
Yeah, you'll see him all right. You'll see him in court.
And so, incredible as it seems, I again took my place in the press gallery and looked down at Edward Brown, for the second time a prisoner in the dock. As the Crown Prosecutor read out Brown's confession, only 3 people in the courtroom realized that his earlier trial was being reenacted in an amazing fashion. So changed was Brown's appearance that few had recognized it, and so common was the name that it had gone, well, I'd say unnoticed. But fate had decreed another remarkable coincidence. The Crown Prosecutor who rose to read out his confession was the same who had faced him before, Mr. Cecil Pollock. His presence in court must have given the defendant a shock.
Continues as follows.
Mr. Pollock paused, took a sip of water, and continued reading Brown's statement.
For several weeks I had been hiding out during the day in a basement cupboard across from Mary Sutton's flat. The door of the building was never locked, and I was able to go in and out at will. On the night of October the 7th, I entered Mary Sutton's flat. She was asleep, but in the light of a street lamp outside, I could see her purse lying on a table beside her bed. I crept over and was about to take the purse when she awakened and began to scream. We struggled. Somehow, I managed to get a stocking round her throat. I choked her with that. Then I took the money in her purse and left the flat. 3 days later, I was arrested by the police as a deserter from the RAF, at which time I made this voluntary statement. Signed, Edward Brown.
Step by step, the trial progressed, with its incredibly familiar pattern. As his first witness, the prisoner's counsel, Mr. R.G. Williams, called Edward Brown to the stand.
You have heard your statement read out by the learned prosecutor?
I have.
Is there any comment you wish to make on it?
Yes. I did not kill Mary Sutton.
Does counsel for the defense intend to claim that the confession was expected under duress?
No, my lad. We claim that for reasons which the defendant will explain, he did not tell the truth in his statement.
If the Crown wishes to move for an adjournment, I will hear such a motion.
The Crown does not require an adjournment, my lad. We are prepared this time.
My lad, I object. I move the prosecutor's final remark be deleted from the record.
I withdraw the remark, my lad.
If the jury will disregard the prosecutor's remark, we are prepared this time. Counsel for the defense may proceed with examination.
Mr. Brown, do you deny all of your statement to the police?
No, sir. I am a deserter from the RAF. I did enter the Sutton flat on the night of the murder, but I did it because I heard a struggle inside. Then a man ran out of the door and ran up the steps. I went in to see what was wrong. I found her dead. I was about to leave when suddenly I decided to confess to the murder.
Why?
Well, I was despondent. I didn't want to go on living. I was a deserter. Couldn't find a job. I was desperately in love with me girl, Laura Caulfield. And she had thrown me over. Sooner or later I knew I'd be caught and probably convicted of the Sutton murder anyway. Who would believe I hadn't done it? And when my girlfriend turned me into the police, I confessed to a murder I did not commit.
No more questions, my lad.
You may proceed with cross-examination, Mr. Pollock.
Thank you, my lad. Mr. Brown, you wished to confess to a murder you did not commit.
Yes, sir.
You decided that while you were in the room?
Yes, sir.
I see. If you wish to confess, why didn't you go directly to the police and do so?
Well, I guess I decided later.
That is not what you said a moment ago.
Now that I think it over, I decided later, yes.
I see. Did you touch the body?
No, sir.
Did you touch the stocking?
No, sir.
But you saw it in the light thrown by the street lamp outside.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Brown, will you describe the stocking?
It was just an ordinary Lyle stocking, nothing special about it.
An ordinary Lyle stocking?
Yes.
Mr. Brown, are you aware that in all newspaper accounts of this case, it has been referred to as the silk stocking murder? You could not possibly know it was Lyle unless you had committed the murder yourself.
No,
I read it somewhere. Why, I submit that your entire confession is true. That you murdered Mary Sutton exactly as you said you did. That you are guilty. Guilty of murder as charged.
The jury was out 40 minutes. Then they returned a verdict of guilty. The man who confessed once too often was convicted and later hanged. What curious compulsion made Edward Brown confess? Evidently some twisted bravado drove him to crave center stage in the drama of the courtroom. Though it took 5 years and 2 trials to accomplish it, justice was finally done. And Edward Brown paid for his crimes with his life. In his case, there was no reprieve at the 11th hour.
Be listening for another mounting drama of action and suspense when we again bring you the 11th hour. A Case of a Curious Confession was written by Philip Albright and produced by Jim Bradley for our transit.
Time, the silent herald of life and death, success or failure, the unseen force that measures man's destiny, reaching its most fateful moment as it slowly strikes the 11th hour. It wouldn't have happened if Janet hadn't been in such a filthy temper. Now, let's be fair, if we both hadn't been in such a filthy temper. We always drove down to our cottage near Aylesbury on Saturday night after the show, for we both had long parts in the play and felt we needed a weekend in the country. The play, Murder Without Motive, had been running for 12 months, and, well, maybe it was getting us down a bit. Anyway, that particular Saturday, Janet wanted to go on to a party. And I didn't. We spent most of the evening arguing about it. We both got more and more stubborn. The result was that we finished up by going to the party, which didn't please me and leaving it after an hour, which didn't please Janet. And because we were so busy slanging each other, I forgot to fill up with petrol before we left London.
Need to drive quite so fast, Michael?
Well, we've wasted enough time as it is.
Oh, rubbish. We'll be at the cottage by 3.
We'd have been there by 2 if you had...
If we hadn't gone to the party. All right. For the amount of time we stayed, we might just as well have not gone at all. Now I suppose you'll moan about it for the whole weekend.
Well, if you will persist in being so bad-tempered,
Me bad-tempered? Well, you've done nothing but sulk all the way from town. And while we were at the party, you looked like a regular crepe hanger.
Well, it was dreary and I was bored.
So it wasn't very bright. Is that my fault?
Well, you insisted on going.
Well, I thought Seligman might be there.
Yes, and you wanted to try and talk him into giving you a part in his new film.
Well, what's wrong with that?
Seligman.
Oh, don't tell me you're getting jealous.
Well, we're not that hard up for work. In fact, there's no need for you to work at all for a while. Why don't you have a rest?
And start raising a family. I've told you. I'll think about it.
Yes, that's as far as you get.
Michael, you took that corner much too far.
I know what I'm doing.
And so do I. You're just being pig-headed. Now slow down for this one. Slow down, Michael! Haven't you any... Michael, look out!
It wasn't my fault, but it served me right because I was going too fast. The big lorry was slewed 3 parts of the way across the lane. Quite evidently, I wasn't the only one who'd taken the corner too fast. We hit the rear of it with a glancing blow, shot up the bank and down again, and pulled up in the middle of the lane some 30 yards further on. You all right, darling?
Yes, I'm all right. It wasn't your fault, Michael.
Get out, both of you.
What's biting you? The accident wasn't our fault.
Are you getting out? Or do I pull you out?
Now, look here,
Shut up. Move.
Lenny!
All you go.
Take your hands off me, all right?
Oh, you what? You better come until you...
Hey, Lenny, cut it out.
What's the idea?
Cut it out, I said. I'll deal with it.
Don't you want me to get...
I said I'll deal with it. Now get back to the lorry. The big oaf reluctantly released me and slouched off, leaving me wondering whether I'd have a broken neck in another couple of seconds. As I tried to massage some feeling back into my shoulder, I watched the second man warily. He was a tough, hard-faced looking individual. But at least he didn't try to tear me into 2 pieces.
You had a lucky escape.
Yes, so it seems, one way and another.
You took that corner too fast.
Yes, and it looks as if you did just the same a few minutes earlier.
That's right. Oh, I think we'd both better forget about it, don't you?
Well, that's a thought. Is your lorry damaged?
Well, nothing that a lick of paint won't put right.
Well, we've only dented a mudguard. So in that case, we'll get going again.
Yes, you do that.
Your friend's a bit primitive, isn't he?
You're being funny or just plain nosy?
Oh, you're a bit touchy as well.
Janet. Think so? I wouldn't be too curious if I were you, lady.
Well,
Pipe down, Jam. We don't want any more trouble.
They're an odd couple.
Very. I could think of other descriptions as well.
I noticed you weren't anxious to linger.
Are you kidding? Didn't you notice what the large gentleman had in his hand?
No, I couldn't see.
It was a kosh.
Well, I'm not altogether surprised. The other one kept his hand in his right pocket all the time he was talking to him.
Yes, he probably had a gun there.
That's what I thought.
And yet you started baiting him.
I wanted to see whether he'd pull it.
Oh, look, darling, we're not on the stage now. When people pull guns in real life, they're loaded and not with blanks.
Sorry, Michael. I've got used to that kind of scene in Murder Without Motive.
Yes, it is there. But just try to remember that in this case, they haven't got to stick to the dialogue of Act 3. When those sort of chaps start ad-libbing, the going's apt to get rough.
Yes, you're right. And that being the case, suppose you turn off to the left, just along there.
Down the cart track? Why?
Because it is a car track, and it's too narrow for the lorry to come down it.
The lorry? Have they started it?
Soon after us. They're just around the next bend. And coming pretty fast.
Well, in that case, I think we'll have our lights out. Oh, This track's a bit bumpy.
Better than a bump from the lorry. I think this is far enough.
Right? See anything?
Just a minute. They've just gone past the end of the track. They're going straight on without stopping. Yes, it's all right.
We sat in the car and smoked to let them get well out of the way. Janet crooked her little finger and linked it in mine. A sign that peace had been restored and the bad temper on both sides was forgotten.
Mickey,
Hmm?
what do you think they're up to?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe nothing. Oh, perhaps we're letting our imaginations run riot. The play's been running too long. I'm thinking too much like Detective Inspector Morton.
Possibly. Yet, I don't know. After all, if we didn't actually see the gun, you didn't imagine the kosh.
Well, that's true.
Ordinary lorry drivers don't go around koshing people just because they nearly had an accident.
No, there's something phony about them and dangerous. Oh, well, anyway, they're out of the way now. Shall we go?
All right. Well, what's wrong? Why won't it stop?
I'm afraid it's not our lucky evening.
Oh, no. Don't tell me you forgot to fill the tank.
Yes, I'm afraid so. I'm sorry, darling. The tank's burned dry.
What about the reserve tank?
Well, I switched over to reserve coming through Uxbridge. I thought I'd make that all-night garage at Amersham.
Oh, there's another one nearer than that.
Yes, well, I'll have to walk down to it and borrow a tin.
I'll come with you.
Well, there's no need. You stay here and rest.
No, thank you. I know the lorry did go by, but all the same, I don't fancy sitting here on my own. I'm not in the mood for admiring the beauties of nature.
Perhaps you're right. Come on, then. The garage you're thinking of is just past the crossroads, isn't it?
Yes, but I just realized they'll be closed.
We'll have to knock them up. Come on, darling. Best foot forward. Yes, we've got 20 minutes walk ahead of us. It took us 25. And Janet was quite right. The garage was closed.
They're probably in bed.
Well, we must get some petrol somehow. I'll wave a couple of quid at them.
If you get the chance.
Oh, don't be like that. Anyway, I'm going to knock until they do wake up. We're closed.
You see?
I'm sorry to disturb you, but we're in a bit of difficulty.
We're not serving anybody now.
Well, if you could just let us have...
I said we're closed.
Yes, I know, but...
Please, or I'll take the dogs on you.
Oh, how do you like that for service?
Oh, come on, Mickey.
Well, of all the nerve.
All right, darling. Take it easy.
But we must have some petrol.
You won't get any by shouting at him. After all, he doesn't have to open up. Come on, let's snoop around the back.
Yes, that's an idea. When I find a tin somewhere, we can leave the money for it.
Yes. Come on, let's go along the fence here.
Look. There's a light in that garage. You can see it under the closed door. Well, they're not in bed at all.
No. Somebody's up, that's certain.
So we'll get our petrol.
Careful, darling. There's something odd about this.
Since they're just a surly bunch of yokels, that's all. Oh, I'll give them a knock on these doors.
Oh, Mickey, please. Let's go quickly. Never mind the petrol. It doesn't matter. Oh, I feel something awful's going to happen.
Well, it's about time. Oh. It's you again.
Don't move, mister, or I'll let you have it. Hey, Mac. Guess who we got for visitors?
Well, well. It isn't our nosy friends from up the road. So you wouldn't take a hint, eh?
Well, I'll give it to him now.
Not yet. But I've got to hand it to you, Lenny. You were right, for once.
Yeah.
You should have knocked him off back up the road.
Sure. That's what I said.
Well, it doesn't make any difference. We can soon remedy our little error. Step inside, friends, and learn what happens to snoopers.
Mac's invitation wasn't the kind I welcomed, but there wasn't any choice about it. As soon as we stepped inside the garage, Lenny pushed the big door shut. The big lorry was there, quite obviously undergoing considerable alterations. I'd read in the newspapers of the lorries and their cargoes which had been disappearing from the Great North Road. Now I knew just how they disappeared. I wondered what had happened to the real lorry driver and his mate. Looking at Lenny with the tire lever in his hand, I didn't have to wonder very hard. I tried to think of something else. It wasn't a very pleasant line of thought. There was a third man in the garage. He, of course, would be the garage owner. The man who didn't want to sell us any petrol. Understandable under the circumstances.
Well, you satisfied your curiosity? We'll get on with the business.
No, well, I haven't. Who are these people, Mac?
They bumped into us on the road further up. They had their chance. They had to come following us.
But we didn't. We only came...
Shut up! Can't stand a woman squawking.
I was only trying to tell you...
Don't try and tell us anything. Now, you heard what the boss said.
Leave her alone. Look, Sonny, don't try and play the little hero, or you'll get hurt. And so will she.
But my wife...
I'll do the talking, mister. All right, tie him up, Lenny.
Tie him up? Look, it'd be easier to bash him.
I said tie him up. I don't want them marked. Now tie their hands behind their backs with that cord.
All right, just as you say.
It almost seemed like the third act of the play. I put my hands behind me, as I'd done every night for 12 months. But as the cords bit into my wrists, I knew that this was grim reality, with no escape guaranteed by a thoughtful author. It made it doubly frightening.
That'll do fine, Lenny.
Good.
Right. Now sit down on those oil drums, both of you.
I'll stand. Now, why didn't you sit down before, eh?
Lenny. You're always so impetuous.
What? Impetuous?
Now, you'll have to excuse my friend. He finds words of more than one syllable a bit difficult.
What?
But he's a man of action.
That's right.
Perhaps you've gathered that by now. Now, don't knock him about, Lenny. Unless you have to.
Oh, well, you know I never do. There's some people just never learn.
I think he's got the idea now.
Oh, Mickey, are you all right?
Yes.
He's all right, just a bit shaken. He's learning the hard way.
Oh, my wrists. The cords are hurting me.
Too bad. Never mind, it won't be for long. Now, mister, where's your car?
It's up the road. We came down here because
I don't want the story of your life. You just answer my questions, that's all. You get it?
Yes, I get it.
Oh, the learning. Now, get into this car. In the back, both of you. You can take us to where you left your car.
Hey, wait a minute, Mac. What are you going to do?
No need for you to worry, Bert. Lenny and I will look after these two.
Yeah. Right. Now, that's what I want to know.
You just get cracking and fix that lorry.
Look, I'm asking you
Asking. You heard what Max said, didn't you?
Oh, don't you try to rough me, Lenny, or you'll be sorry, both of you.
I'll be sorry. We'll be sorry. I could break you in two.
Quiet down, Lenny. Quiet down. Bert knows we've got to have his cooperation.
You bet I do. Just keep remembering that, son.
All right. No sense in quarreling. You ought to know we can't let these two go. They're in your garage.
Yeah, what do they have? I'm not having anything to do with murder.
Nobody asked you to.
Oh, no? Well, I know enough about the law to know that if you and Lenny knock 'em off, I'm for it as well. And believe me, I'm not laying myself open to take any 8 o'clock walk with the hangman.
Oh, you don't want to worry, you know. You'd never be up in time.
Yeah, very funny. But you're not going to do it, see?
Look, we promised not to say anything.
Stay in the back of that car and keep quiet.
But don't you see? Look, we could...
Look, have I got to attend to you as well?
It's no good, Janet. Might as well shut up.
He learns quick. Now get in the front, Lenny. I'll drive.
Okay.
Hey, listen to me, Mac. You drive that car out of here and I'll pick up the phone.
You pick up the phone?
That's what I'll do. I'll pick it up.
Stay where you are, Lenny. I'll handle it. Look, Bert, you've got it all wrong.
Right, he has.
Nobody said anything about murder.
But you said you were going to
I said we can't let them go. So there'll have to be an accident.
Hmm? What kind of an accident?
I think their car's going to catch fire at some point.
That's good, eh? Catch fire? Oh, well, if you're sure you can fix it to look like an accident.
Of course we can.
Well, it's different.
You open the garage doors, Bert, and stop worrying. You get ulcers if you're not careful. Okay. Now you get that lorry fixed up. Shan't be long.
I could just make out Janet staring wide-eyed in the dark. And I wondered whether she was feeling like me, that it was all some horrible nightmare. It was difficult to believe that these two men were going to burn us to death in a matter of minutes. But I knew it was true. There were no blood-curdling threats, just a calm, methodical preparation, which somehow made it all seem more horrible.
Did you bring that length of sash cord with you, Lenny?
Yeah, I've got it right here.
Right. We'll need it for the fuse.
I suppose you fellows realize what you're heading into. The police will get you. There's no such thing as a perfect murder, you know.
I quite agree. But this is going to be an accident. A car catches fire. Happens all the time, you know.
You're calmly sitting there talking about burning us to death. You can't do a thing like that.
Why not?
You couldn't be so inhuman.
Look, lady, in my business we can't take chances. You know too much. You've seen us and the truck. You shouldn't have come snooping.
But we never meant to.
I'm not concerned with what you meant or didn't mean. The way things are. Well, like I said, we can't take chances.
But, Bernie...
You won't feel a thing. Lenny will knock you both out first.
That's right.
Providing you behave yourself.
And it'll be a very great
Oh, but not too hard, Lenny, not too hard. You know, that's the trouble with him. He doesn't know his own strength.
How can you be so cold-blooded? Haven't you got any humanity at all?
Can't afford it in my line of business. What's your business?
I'm an actor.
Then you ought to be used to this kind of stuff. Just regard it as a special performance. Without any encores. Is this the car track you came along?
Well, I'm not sure.
Look, up to now, I've been very considerate. Don't make things difficult for yourself at the end.
Yes, this is the track.
That's better. Oh, is it far along? Oh, no, I can see it. Ah, here we are. How'd you get Lenny?
Right.
Now, how about you two? I said hop out. It'll only make it worse if Lenny has to drag you out. Ah, that's right. Bit of cooperation and you won't feel a thing. Right, once over lightly.
Hold on a minute. I want to ask you something.
What is it? Make it snappy.
Just as a matter of curiosity.
What? That word again?
Well, might as well be consistent.
Well, what do you want to know?
Just what do you intend to do when Lenny's knocked us out?
Quite simple. You see this bit of cord? We soak it in petrol. One end goes in the petrol tank, and the two of you go in the car. We stand back and light the other end. Up she goes. Final curtain, you might say.
Yes, I was counting on it being something like that.
You were counting on it?
Well, sort of. You see, you can't do it. There's no petrol in the tank.
What? Have a look, Lenny. He's probably bluffing the time.
Okay.
That's why we came knocking up the garage. I tried to tell you, but you wouldn't listen.
What did this stop was just then? Hey, there's nothing in the tank, Mac. It's a drama. Dry as a Sahara desert.
And we'll siphon some from our car. There's plenty there. Will anyone want to drop to get back to the garage?
Yeah, I know that, but what are we going to siphon it with?
Oh, look, a bit of rubber tubing.
Oh, we ain't got any.
All right, so we haven't got any rubber tubing.
Look, I'll tell you what. We could use our car and take theirs. It's a better car.
Look, have some sense. Lummox, the police would know it wasn't their car. No, there's nothing else for it. I'll have to go to the garage and fetch some petrol.
Yeah, well, what am I going to do all this time?
Nothing. Just watch them. That's all. I'll be back in 5 minutes.
Okay.
so we had 5 minutes' grace. But I couldn't see what good it was going to do us. Our hands were tied behind our backs, and I had no illusions there about what would happen if either of us tried to run or fight with our hands tied. I tried to think what Detective Inspector Morton in the play would have done. And then I thought of the last act, a murder without motive. It was a slim chance, and it all depended on whether Janet picked up her cue.
Now, don't move, or you'll get it now.
My wrists are hurting.
Oh, now, so what? You won't be feeling anything in a few minutes.
That's a line from the play I'm appearing in. You see, we're both tied up and...
Oh, I hope you've got good understudies.
Not tied up tightly like this, of course.
And so, you get loose, I suppose, eh? And then the villain gets his, and I'm the villain. That's all right. You know, but you won't, not this time.
Yes, I know, that's the difference. You see, in the play I say to him, you've been very clever, Barrett, but there's one thing you haven't allowed for. I knew Mary hadn't committed the murder.
You mean you never really suspected me, Bill?
Yeah, just a minute. What are you talking about? What's the caper?
That's what she says in the play. I only pretended to suspect you to put friend Barrett off his guard.
Oh, is that so? Well, you'll have to bring the curtain down now. I can hear Mac coming in the car.
You remember how it finishes, Janet?
Of course.
Then now! Oh! It worked. He's out cold. Come on, quickly.
Across the field into that wood. They'll never find us in the dark.
It had been a long shot, but we'd have the luck with us. I hoped that Janet would catch on, for unless you do it together, it's useless. It's a tricky thing to do, and Janet and I had a lot of trouble over it at rehearsals. But when you've been doing it for 12 months, night after night, your timing gets pretty good. I butted Lenny in the chest with my head while Jan threw herself against the back of his legs. And that was curtains for Lenny. Well, the police caught them a few days later. But we aren't playing in Murder Without Motive any longer. We find that third act a bit too grim for our liking now.
Be listening for another mounting drama of action and suspense when we again bring you The 11th Hour. This
the silent herald of life and death, success or failure, the unseen force that measures man's destiny, reaching its most fateful moment as it slowly strikes the 11th hour.
Come in.
Miss Sanderson told me you wanted to see me, Mr. Gifford.
No? Oh, yes, that's right, Pooley. Come in.
If it's about the Coniston figures, Mr. Gifford, I think I can explain.
It's about the Coniston figures. It's about the Hargraves account. The book you drew up for Smales and Vaughan. In fact, it's about your work as a whole, Pooley. I'm not at all pleased by your present standard.
But
Just look at this page of entries in this ledger of yours. Well, look at it, Pooley.
there are a few alterations.
You know that I won't tolerate this sort of work. You know what I demand from my clerks.
Well, it's just that I have a great deal on my mind just at present, Mr. Gifford.
I am not interested in what you may or may not have on your mind, Pooley. We're a busy organization here. Each employee is required to turn in a set amount of work, and you're not doing that. How long have you been here?
11 years.
11 years. Little wonder that you've never progressed beyond the account ledgers when you turn in slipshod jobs like this. This company is in a critical position, Pooley. We can't not afford incompetence.
But, Mr. Gifford, if you'll just let me explain...
I think it would be to everyone's interest to terminate your employment here, Pooley. It's obvious to me that if you stayed 50 years, you'd never manage to fit into our way of things.
You're sacking me?
It's best for all concerned.
Well, I hardly see how it's best for me, Mr. Gifford. Jobs are very difficult to get these days. I've had so many worries recently, and I suffer from ill health.
I'll have my secretary draw up some sort of letter of recommendation. I want to be fair about this.
There.
Now then, I have a great deal of work to get through. Good day, Pooley.
But I would...
Good day.
Good day, Mr. Gifford.
Hello?
Vera. Charles here.
Well?
I've sacked him. It was pretty easy. He didn't even have enough backbone to argue. Nothing to it.
Well, that ought to do the trick. Should be the last straw for him.
Pale as a ghost. Trembling like a leaf.
Charles, you're sure there's no risk?
I've told you time and time again there's none whatsoever. We're not doing anything that's against the law. And in any case, no one could possibly connect us with anything that might happen.
Sorry. I suppose it's only natural to have some doubts this time. Must be so close now.
You may have doubts, but I'll guarantee it's not your conscience that's troubling you. Look, I've got to ring off now. I'll contact you again later. There can't be very much longer to wait now. Goodbye, Vera.
Bye, Charles.
Oh, Miss Sanderson, would you come in, please?
Yes, sir?
Well, Miss Sanderson, I want you to take a letter to the Cadogan Finance and Loan Company. You'll find their address somewhere in our files. The letter is to be addressed to the credit manager. Dear Sir, I feel it my duty to advise you that Mr. Benjamin Pooley has been dismissed from this company. I understand that he has a considerable hire purchase account with you, and that in the past a weekly sum has been deducted from his wage to liquidate this outstanding debt. This arrangement, of course, will now be terminated. It will be necessary for him to find some alternative way of meeting his obligations. Yes, I think that will do. And when you have it typed, take it along to Mr. Edgley for him to sign.
Hello, Mr. Pooley. You're early today. Never usually see you till the dot of 6. The usual?
Oh, yes, please, Mrs. Larkin. Oh, no, on second thoughts, make it a double, would you?
My, we're letting our hair down a bit today, aren't we?
It would seem to be one of those days when one should let one's hair down, I feel, Mrs. Larkin.
Oh, had a good day? Lady Luck smiling on you?
Oh, that's really very funny, Mrs. Larkin, very funny indeed. Lady Luck smiling on me. I'll tell you the things that happened to me today. Next to all the bills that arrived in the post this morning, there was a letter from some anonymous person. You know about my health?
Well, you said it hasn't been the best for a few years.
This person seemed to know all about it. Told me that I was suffering from... Well, said the most horrible things. Said I was going to die.
Oh, I shouldn't take any notice of that sort of thing, Mr. Pooley.
But the awful thing is, I don't know whether they're telling the truth or not. I've never been a particularly brave person. Physical pain is something that terrifies me. Then there was the phone call again today. Someone who rings up at odd hours, either at the office or at my home, telling me that I'm going to die. I don't think I can stand much more of it.
Here, I'll get you another drink. I think perhaps you need it. This'll make you feel better. No, it's on the house, Mr. Pooley.
Oh, you're very kind. But that's not all that happened today. Mr. Riddell, he's the shipping clerk at the office, left his valuable gold wristwatch in the washroom this morning. It turned up in my desk drawer. I had no idea how it got there. Perhaps I took it by mistake. I have so much on my mind.
Oh, dear.
And then just to crown everything, I got the sack this afternoon.
Oh, Mr. Pooley, I am sorry. I really am.
And you spoke of Lady Luck. Mrs. Larkin, why is all this happening to me? For the last 3 weeks, life has been a nightmare for me. A nightmare. Not a single thing has gone right. I'm at the end of my tether.
No, you mustn't talk like that. Can I pour you another?
No, I must be getting home. I have to tell my wife about what happened at the office. Thank you, Mrs. Larkin. You're very kind. Good night.
Good night, Mr. Pooley.
Good night. I can't go on. I really can't go on. Oh, what a mess. What an awful mess. There's no way out.
It's little wonder that you've never progressed beyond the account ledgers when you turn in slipshod jobs like this.
But, Mr. Gifford...
You're sick, Pooley. Desperately sick. Didn't your doctor tell you that you had only a short time to live?
No, that's not true.
You're nothing but a rotten little thief, Pooley.
No.
I think it would do everyone's interest to terminate your employment here, Pooley. You die in pain. Horrible pain, and there's no cure for what you have. There's no escape.
There's nothing in this world as low and despicable as a thief, Pooley.
What are you trying to do? End it all or something? You want to watch where you're going when you're crossing the street?
I'm sorry. It was all my fault.
Well, that's the trouble with you pedestrians. Never look where you're going.
End it all. End it all. I wouldn't have the courage. End it all. End it all. End it all. End it all.
That you, Ben?
Yes, dear.
Well, you're back early. Hope you don't expect the dinner to be ready. Not even on the stove yet.
Oh, that's all right.
You forget to stop off at the hotel. Goodness me, you are slipping, aren't you? Didn't you once tell me that even the slightest change in routine upset you? Oh, there's whiskey on your breath. Where have you been?
I got the sack.
What?
Gifford sacked me.
What for?
Incompetence.
Oh, that's a fine how to do. What's going to happen now? What about all the stuff on hire purchase? We owe hundreds of pounds. And how are we going to pay it off? And do you know how much we've got in the bank? Well, I'll tell you. Precisely £24. And how long's that going to keep us, may I ask?
If we live carefully.
Live carefully. Starve, you mean? Well, I'm not going to do that. Not on your sweet life, I'm not. And it'll take you ages to get another job. You don't have the drive.
Stop it! For goodness sake, let me have a moment's peace. I can't stand any more. Things happening one after the other. Peace? I must have peace for a second. I have to get out.
Where are you going?
I don't know.
Hello?
Charles?
Yes, Vera.
It'll be tonight. I'm absolutely sure. He's in an awful mess. Yes, I'm sure it'll be tonight. But I wonder how I would do it.
Never mind about that.
You must have given him a bad time when you fired him.
Well, I made it as unpleasant as I could. Listen, you've got that solicitor's letter hidden away carefully, haven't you?
Yes, of course.
Right. Well, now remember, Vera, this is the critical time. From this moment on, we've got to be ultra careful. This is the culminating point, the 11th hour of our plan.
Yes, I know that.
I wish to goodness we could watch where he goes, but that's too risky. Better not try and contact me until we get some news.
Very well, then.
Oh, and Vera,
Yes?
let's have no thoughts of a double cross at this stage, eh?
Oh, now, Charles, really. It'd be a bit pointless, wouldn't it?
Good night, Vera.
Good night.
We live in a world of symbols and signs, abbreviations and slogans. What do they mean to us? Well, of course, that depends. Take the flag of the United States, for example. There's a symbol that is respected throughout the world and cherished by citizens of the United States. But there's a reason for it. It stands for the power and the glory, the fairness and progress of the United States' historic tradition. The Medal of Honor is another symbol, a symbol of the highest sort, based on historic truths and traditions, and won by gallant action above and beyond the call of duty. How did it all get started? Just listen to this. Before the Civil War, there were no permanent awards given to the men of the armed forces of the United States for doing their jobs. No, not even when the job was beyond the call of duty. Fighting men did what they could because it had to be done. In 1862, less than 24 Union Army enlisted men, who became known as the Mitchell Raiders, volunteered to make a secret penetration deep into enemy territory, steal an express train right out of the Confederate camp, and run it up north, tearing up tracks, burning bridges, and cutting wires on the way in order to disrupt enemy communications. Only moments before reaching their own lines again, with the mission accomplished, the train ran out of fuel. The men tried to escape, but were captured and thrown into prison. Most of them were executed as spies. The others, expecting the same fate, made a brave and dangerous attempt to escape. 6 of them were recaptured and later exchanged for Confederate prisoners. When they reported to Washington, D.C., they were awarded the first Medals of Honor ever given to American soldiers. In their gallant and intrepid actions, to do everything possible to fight to win, and when captured, to escape and fight again, they maintained an established code of conduct for American fighting men everywhere. What the Mitchell Raiders did is symbolic of what keeps America a great nation. Now is a good time to examine your own code of conduct.
Some peace.
Terminate your employment here, Pooley.
Only a short time to live. A rotten thief, Pooley.
All the stuff on hire purchase. We owe hundreds of pounds. 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 Hundreds of pounds.
Got a smoke to spare, mister?
Oh, I didn't see you.
Oh, sorry. I give you a scare. Just wondering if you'd have a fag to spare. Down on me luck for the time being. Dying for a smoke.
Yes, I have a cigarette. Here we are.
Thanks, mister. Put a light. Yeah, if I only had some food in my stomach and a place to sleep tonight, I'd be as right as rain. They're my only immediate problems.
You're very lucky.
You all right, mister? I've seen you standing here on this railway bridge looking down at the plains for over an hour. But, Jimmy, now I see no light. You look as pale as death. Want to talk about it, eh? Oh, no. Not as crazy as it sounds. You got no idea how many people tell a tramp like me they're troubled. Seems they get a sort of relief from opening up to a stranger. Someone they'll probably never see again.
Troubled? Listen to this for a list of troubles. I owe hundreds of pounds. I've been accused of being a thief. I'm sick and I get anonymous phone calls about my ill health. I've lost my job because of incompetence and my marriage is a dismal failure. And there are other things, little unpleasant things that have all mounted up over the past couple of weeks. Look, as far as I know, I never did anyone any harm in my whole life. Now, why is all this happening to me? I can't stand anymore.
You've got your worries, haven't you? Oh, well, I expect you'll get over them. Thanks for the smoke, mister. I'm much obliged. Hope your luck changes. I really do.
Don't go. I don't want to be alone. I want to talk all this out with someone. Anyone. Don't go. Please don't go. I'm afraid to be left alone.
Vera, what the devil?
I had to come, Charles. Let me in quickly.
Look, if I've told you once, I've told you 1,000 times.
All right. I know I'm not supposed to come here, but the waiting was driving me mad.
Now, of all times, right at the critical stage. It would be fatal if we were seen together.
You've been gone for 3 hours. Must have happened by now. We should have heard something.
You realize that if they try and contact you, you won't be home. Now, Vera, you must get back to your flat.
But supposing he doesn't do it?
Oh, impossible. I've been meticulous about every single detail. The anonymous phone calls and the letter, planting Riddell's watch in his drawer at the office, everything building up nicely to the moment I sacked him. That will have been his breaking point. Now, for goodness sake, get back to your place. Oh, now what? Hello, Gifford here.
Mr. Gifford, Gifford and Barnett Limited.
Yes?
I'm sorry to trouble you at this hour, sir. It concerns one of your employees, Mr. Benjamin Pooley. There's been an accident.
I see.
I'm a police officer, and I'm trying to contact Mrs. Pooley. As a matter of fact, we're at her home now. We took the liberty of going inside. The door wasn't locked. We were wondering if you could give us any idea of where Mrs. Pooley might be.
Well, as a matter of fact, I think I might be able to contact her. Pooley mentioned something about her going out this evening. About Pooley, is he...
I think we'd better talk to Mrs. Pooley before we give out any information, sir.
Yes, of course. Well, I'll do my best to contact her. Then I'll come over myself. It might be of some assistance if there's been an accident. I take a great interest in the welfare of my employees.
See you when you arrive, sir.
Charles?
Yes, it's happened. Now, come on. You've got to get to your place right away. You should never have left.
Oh, thank goodness it's all over.
Very kind of you to spare the time to come along, Mr. Gifford. If there's anything I can do to help...
My husband, is he...
I think you'd better sit down for a moment, Mrs. Pooley.
Oh.
We've put him in the bedroom. You must be brave, Mrs. Pooley. Yes. I'm afraid you're going to need courage, Mrs. Pooley.
Oh.
Both of you. Huh? What do you mean? I mean, the game's up. What on earth are you talking about? Well, now, let me start at the beginning. A few days ago, Mr. Pooley came to us complaining of being pestered by anonymous phone calls. They were the worst possible kind, someone ringing up, playing on a hidden fear. In the case of Mr. Pooley, it was the fact that he has a mortal terror of illness. And the caller knew that he wasn't a particularly brave man.
He went to the police.
The anonymous caller is a dangerous person. Consequently, we go to a great deal of trouble to track them down. Various ways in which we can do it, tracing the calls and so forth. The phone calls Mr. Pooley's been receiving were traced to your home, Mr. Gifford. But... This morning, Mr. Pooley received an anonymous letter. On his way to his office, he dropped it into us. It was a very clumsy sort of letter. It wasn't too difficult to trace it to you, Mrs. Pooley.
No, you're wrong. You're making a horrible mistake.
Our investigations have been going on for several days now. We've had Benjamin Pooley under constant surveillance. And we've done quite a considerable amount of poking about. We came up with some startling facts. Inspector, I've no idea what you're getting at, and I should warn you. I'm the one that's going to do the warning, Mr. Gifford. For weeks now, you've been carrying out a subtle but devilishly clever scheme. You and Mrs. Pooley. All the nagging little worries that you piled onto his shoulders. Until they became too much to bear. And then, climaxing it all today. Oh, yes, clever. But not clever enough. I still don't understand what you're driving at, officer. You started the whole business off quietly. Firstly, there were the alterations you made to his account books, so that it looked as though he was making mistakes. That started him worrying about his competence. Then you, Mrs. Pooley. You started buying all sorts of knickknacks on credit, putting him deeper and deeper into debt. That made him worry about his financial position. Then there were the phone calls, everything building.
A pattern leading to a crisis. And you knew a man like Pooley can't cope with a crisis. He cracks, he disintegrates.
What would be the purpose of this fantastic scheme you've outlined? What possible interest do you think I would have in Benjamin Pooley? What would be the reason for all this?
The reason was that you and Mrs. Pooley were attempting to drive him out of his mind. Or worse.
But why? Why would we want to do that?
Because of a letter that was addressed to him several weeks ago. A letter which he never received. Because you open all the mail that comes to this house. Oh, no, Mrs. Pooley. I'm afraid it's no use looking towards the bookshelf there. That's where you hid it. But we've searched the place. I have that letter in my pocket now.
He knows. He knows.
Yes, we know. The letter was from a solicitor. It informed Benjamin Pooley of his brother's death in Venezuela. It went on to tell him that his brother had invested in oil during his lifetime and had died a comparatively wealthy man. It ended by saying that your husband was the sole benefactor. At this moment, your husband is worth over £45,000. And until half an hour ago, he didn't even know about it.
Then surely I have no motive for wishing him harm.
Except that he would be the one in control of the money, and I don't think you particularly relish sharing £45,000 with him. Spoil too much of the joy of being rich. Now, you knew that if you destroyed him, the money would be yours. But you'd contemplate sharing it with a man like Mr. Gifford, if you had to recruit his help.
All this is pure assumption on your part. You're making some very serious accusations, you know.
I consider it a serious business.
Anyway, my husband's dead now. And,
dead?
Well, the accident.
Excuse me a moment. This may come as something of a surprise to you, Mrs. Pooley. Would you come in now? Hello, Vera.
You?
Pooley. He's alive. You said there was an accident.
Oh, but there was, Mr. Gifford. It was down by the railway bridge. I was watching the trains rushing underneath. I was confused, worried. Then there was a moment when I almost... But then quite suddenly I wanted to get away from that bridge. I couldn't have been looking where I was going when I crossed the road. So much on my mind, you know. The car knocked me down. Oh, nothing serious, just a glancing blow, but it seemed to knock me out for a moment.
There was a tramp nearby. He took Mr. Pooley to the nearest police station. After that, I stepped in. I thought the whole business had gone far enough. And I'm afraid you're not going to be able to share in any of that £45,000, Mr. Gifford. Looks as though your company is going to go broke after all. Now, if you'll just prefer charges, Mr. Pooley...
No, I may not do that, Inspector.
What?
Mr. Gifford, I'll make a bargain with you.
Anything. Anything.
Gifford and Barnett Limited is broke. How much would it cost to get the company out of its difficulties?
Well, 15,000 would just about do it.
If I invested 15,000, what would I get for it?
An executive position?
No. I'd want control of the company. Complete control.
But
the charges I could press against you would be of a very serious nature, Mr. Gifford.
All right. All right, you get control.
Good. I'd like that in writing. Now. And I shall draw up a check in the morning. There's paper and pen on the bureau over there.
Paper, pen. This is preposterous.
And what's going to happen to me?
Well, I'm afraid our life together is over, Vera. I shall leave you, of course.
This is rather irregular, Mr. Pooley. These people should be made to pay for what they've done.
Oh, they'll pay all right, Inspector. You see, Vera has an insatiable appetite for money and luxury. Now, she's no longer a beautiful woman, so I don't think men are going to lavish things on her, and she could never stand being lonely. Without me, she's going to live in loneliness, and without the comfort of a share in £45,000. So I'm afraid she's got very little to look forward to.
Well, here you are. Here's that agreement, Pooley.
Mr. Pooley, please.
Yes, of course. Sorry, Mr. Pooley.
And now, Gifford, I think it would be to everyone's interest to terminate your employment with the company.
What? But you can't do that.
I think it's best for all concerned. And now, if you'll excuse me, I'll say good night. I'm quite exhausted. It's been one of those days, you know?
What makes a person a hero? That's a difficult question to answer, for heroes can come from widely differing backgrounds, and there have been heroes in our armed forces who perform their acts of heroism in non-combat situations. To recognize these achievements and to do honor to her brave men, the Navy has authorized the awarding of the Navy and Marine Corps Medal. This decoration is given to anyone serving in the U.S. Navy, Marine Corps, or Naval Reserve who distinguishes himself or herself by heroism not involving actual conflict with an enemy. Authorized in August of 1942, the Navy and Marine Corps Medal is one of our country's newer major decorations and applies to activities after December 6, 1941. It is comparable to the Army Soldier's Medal and is given in tribute to distinguished devotion Navy and Marine Corps personnel bring to their tour of duty. The Navy and Marine Corps Medal stands as a symbol of recognition from a grateful nation.
Be listening for another mounting drama of action and suspense when we again bring you the 11th Hour. This was an Artranza production written by Don Horton and directed by Jim Bradley.
This is the United States Armed Forces Radio and Television Service.
The last will and testament of the late Louisa Catherine.
I can't believe it. I just can't believe it. She's left us nothing. She had all that and we get nothing.
There is this letter, ma'am. It's addressed to you and marked private.
A letter for me? Quick, where is it?
Here it is. My instructions were to give it to you after the reading of the will.
My dear Alice, I can imagine how annoyed
you are at this moment. I haven't left you and that parasite of a son of yours a penny. It all goes to Catherine, whom you have often referred to as that colourless, unattractive girl. Well, she gets everything. Not because I care for her. I, too, find her colourless and unattractive. But I have to leave the estate to someone. Anyone but you, dear sister. You've had quite enough. You've always loathed me, yet were hypocrite enough to pretend love and devotion because of the money. Now it's gone. You and your son are on your own. Happy hunting. With fondest love, Louisa.
Well, ma'am, and what are your sister's instructions? Mrs. Mason, what are your sister's instructions?
Oh, She explains everything.
Satisfactorily?
Of course. Most satisfactorily. Well, now the will's been read, you'll excuse me. Come, David.
I followed Mother, as I always followed Mother. She was small and elegant. I was tall and gangling and laughably shy, because of her. She did it to me, because she answered for me always. She lived my life for me. I had prayed for money from Aunt Louise's estate, but there was none for me. There was no way I could escape this stifling love and devotion and possession, no way at all. I followed her to the car and noticed a letter gripped firmly in her immaculately gloved hand. I didn't realize it then, but that letter was to be the key to my freedom. It was to open my cage door and let me fly. But before that happened, I had to stare at the bottomless pit of horror. I had to witness the biter bit.
Time, the silent herald of life and death, success or failure, the unseen force that measures man's destiny, reaching its most fateful moment as it slowly strikes the 11th hour.
She didn't even talk when I parked the car and we walked into the house. But I could read the signs. A tight mouth and hard brown eyes. She was in a devil of a temper. Then suddenly she seemed to explode, and the words poured from her.
Louisa was amused when she wrote that letter, amused. And I could imagine the smile on her face. I'm getting even with Alice. I suppose she sat there and thought this is going to be great fun. Oh, what a wonderful opportunity to strike back.
What did she write in the letter?
Read it. Go on. It affects your future as well. She calls you a parasite, David. When I think of what you did for her, fetching and carrying without a word of complaint, what other man would have shown her such kindness and consideration? And she thanks you by calling you a parasite, ridiculing you, and leaving everything to that wretched girl, Catherine. Well, what do you think of that letter from your dear aunt?
Did you loathe her, Mother?
Of course, and you blame me. Do you? That letter proves the kind of woman she was.
But if you felt like that, why did you live here with her?
Where else could I live, silly boy? Your father decamped and left me no money at all. I had to make my home somewhere. Louisa lived in this tremendous house. She was alone. Of course, this should have been mine originally.
Oh?
She married the man I loved, and who, truth, loved me. She stole him with false promises. Your father came, and I accepted him on the rebound.
I see.
But I didn't love him. How could I after the way he treated us? You do understand that, don't you, David? It wasn't my fault, the rift in my marriage. It was his. And I brought you here because I felt this was your life. I did it all for you, David.
Of course. You did it all for me.
When I think of how I waited on Louisa, how I nursed her those last months, morning, noon, and night, I never left her, then what thanks do I get? This slap in the face. We'll have to leave this house, of course. I suppose Catherine will take over, the lady of the manor. What will that immature, callow girl do with all this house? How can she entertain?
I suppose she'll get married.
Some waster who'll squander all Louisa's money. Anyway, I'm not giving up all that easy.
What do you mean? There's nothing you can do, Mother. Aunt Louisa made that will, and you can't contest it.
Perhaps not.
Mother didn't say anything else after that, but she sat a long time looking down over the rolling green lawns. She was thinking. I knew the signs. It was no good talking to her, so I left her there. and it was an hour later that she came into my room.
Darling, I've been thinking about Catherine. We should help her.
Help her? But Mother, you said
I know what I said, darling, but I was angry. I allowed everything to get beyond me. I've been reflecting back over everything. And after all, it was Louisa's money, wasn't it? She was entitled to leave it as she wished. Oh, darling, don't you look so surprised.
Well, this is a change of attitude.
I was shocked when I heard the reading of that will. Shocked and disappointed. Now I've had time to see everything in perspective. We must ask Catherine to come down. We must extend the hand of friendship, darling. You must be very nice to her.
But
I'll phone her now. After all, she has no one. She's completely alone, and I dare say this news has astonished and even frightened her a little.
Frightened her?
Well, the responsibility and all that. It's tremendous for one so young. 80,000 pounds. A great deal of wealth. 80,000. And all this. We mustn't envy her, darling. We must pity her. Now, where's her number? Ah, yes. All written here in dear Louisa's own handwriting. After I've spoken, you take over, darling, and tell her you'd be delighted to call and collect her.
But, Mother, I can't stand Catherine.
You'll do as you're told, David.
Yes, Mother.
And if we play our hands right, we may show a nice little profit on this deal.
Catherine Mason speaking.
Darling, it's your Aunt Alice.
Oh, hello.
We would so love you to come down and stay, and then you can settle in permanently later on.
Well,
Now, don't say no, darling, and spoil everything for David. He's looking forward to your company, and he says, bring your tennis things, as the weather is beautiful at the moment. Wait a minute, darling. Let him talk to you. Here you are, David.
But, Mother...
Talk to her.
Hello, Catherine.
Hello, David.
What about coming down, as Mother suggested?
Well, you're very kind.
Tennis. Mention tennis.
It's good weather for tennis.
You collect her and sound enthusiastic.
I'll come up and collect you if you like.
Well, I was thinking of buying a car, so I could drive down.
Oh, you'll come then?
Yes. Yes, thank you, I will. I'll phone back later and confirm the day if you don't mind. There are a few things I have to do.
Oh, very well, then. Goodbye.
Well, I must say you didn't sound enthusiastic, David. It was a deplorable performance. It was enough to put her off completely.
Oh, she's coming down, Mother, and that's what you wanted, isn't it? She's buying a new car.
So, a new car. She's spending the money even before she gets it. A new car. Our little Catherine is launching out. And it's our money, too. That's the wretched part of it. It's our money, David. It belongs by right to you and me. And that little chit is spending it. I suppose it'll be one of those flashy, expensive cars.
Mother, if you feel this way about her, why ask her down? Why?
Because it's the way I plan it. That's why.
You plan it? Mother, what are your plans? What are you going to do?
Get what is mine by right.
The money? But you can't.
Darling, you leave all this to me.
What are you going to do? You must tell me.
Don't worry yourself with this, David. Now, there's a good boy. I must slip along and arrange the spare room for Catherine. We must make her very welcome.
She bustled away, busy with her plans and her thoughts. She was my mother, but there were times when I feared her, and this was one of them. I hardly saw her until Catherine finally arrived, driving a sleek new sports car. My mother looked at it, and her eyes reflected disapproval, but her voice was as smooth as silk.
Darling, how beautiful. A lovely new car.
Yes. Isn't it nice?
And red, so pretty. David, do help Catherine with her luggage.
Of course, yes.
I suppose I should really say welcome home. Because that is what the manor is now, isn't it? Your home.
Oh, Aunt Alice, about everything. I don't want the manor. It's too large for me, and I wouldn't be happy living here, knowing that this was really your home.
But, darling, Louisa left it to you.
I believe she didn't. There must have been some mistake. These things do happen in people's wills. Oh, please don't move out of the manor. Take it.
That's very sweet of you. But a great home like this takes a fortune to keep up. No. You take it over. David and I have made plans. Now, let me take you to your room. I've decided to put you in Louise's bedroom. You don't mind? The spare room is being painted. Come along, darling. This way.
Once again I followed my mother obediently, but this time my mind seethed with thoughts. Why Louisa's bedroom? The spare one wasn't being painted. Was this something to do with my mother's plans? I caught her eye a moment. She was enjoying herself hugely, playing a magnificent part. Then I asked myself a question. I wonder what she's up to. I couldn't guess, but I felt the icy prickle of fear. The first inkling Mother gave me of her plans was that night, shortly before dinner.
David, stop pacing up and down and listen to me. I need your help.
My help?
I have never asked you for it before, but I do so now. I need your help. You've always considered yourself an actor, haven't you?
Well,
This is your opportunity to prove it. At dinner, I'm turning the conversation towards the return of departed souls.
The return of
I do wish you wouldn't repeat everything I say. We shall talk of Louisa. We shall talk of her presence, still here at the manor. We shall talk of the return of the dead to the places they love.
But Mother...
I shall expect some help from you, David.
Help from me?
Oh, you've done it again. Repeat it after me. I do wish you wouldn't do it.
But I know nothing about such things.
No more do I. But we shall both weave a convincing story. A prelude, as it were, to the actual drama which will take place later in the evening.
What are you talking about?
Louisa is going to return this evening.
What?
She won't materialize, of course, nothing like that. But she'll speak to Catherine.
Oh, but Mother...
She'll speak to her inarticulately at first. Then gradually her voice will clear. And she'll talk of another will.
Another will?
Made a short while before her death. A new will, in which, as a gesture of gratitude, she leaves me the sum of £20,000.
But this will doesn't exist.
On the contrary, darling, it does exist. Here. You see? Her signature. A perfect forgery. And witnesses. Everything above board.
You did this?
Yes.
But old Ratcliffe won't believe.
Even if he doesn't, she will. You saw how she was. Embarrassed about everything.
I thought she was rather decent offering you the house.
I'm getting the house and £20,000. That leaves her quite enough for her simple needs.
Mother, you're never going to get away with this. You can't.
That is the negative kind of attitude your father would have adopted. Of course I'm getting away with it. Louisa will speak of the will. She will indicate where it is hidden. She will find it and show it to Ratcliffe. He may not believe. He may well have his suspicions and his doubts. But there is no evidence that this is a forgery. Don't forget, I never disclosed the contents of her letter to him. I kept that to myself. And I intend to burn it now. There. That belongs to the past.
Oh, you mustn't do this. Please, you mustn't.
That from you? And I'm doing this for you. I don't want the money. It means nothing to me. Neither does this house. But you've no career, no profession. You must be protected from life. And money only can do it. I know you aren't a fighter, darling. You're sensitive and you don't like trouble. But leave this to me. First, a tape recorder. You see? I've been practicing Louisa's voice. Listen.
Look, look, look. Desk. Hidden drawer. Hidden drawer.
How's that?
For pity's sake, don't do this. It can only lead to trouble. What if she dies of shock? What then?
That is extremely unlikely. Women of that description are horribly healthy.
Well, she might get hysterical or anything.
All the better. Now, all I ask of you, David, is to assist me.
I won't do it.
Of course you will, silly boy. Now, you run along and dress for dinner. At 7:30, knock on her door and take her downstairs. I'll slip into Louisa's room and make the final arrangements.
But Mother...
There isn't much time, David. Now do as I say, quickly.
From then on, it became a nightmare, and I was powerless to resist the strength of my mother. You can condemn and criticize if you will. You can say what you like. I was weak and spineless. Oh, yes, I've said all that to myself many times. It was at dinner that Mother twisted the conversation with almost diabolical cunning.
I do hope you'll be comfortable, Catherine.
The room looks beautiful, Aunt Alice.
I feel most distressed having to put you there. After all, that was Louisa's room.
Oh, but that doesn't make me afraid. She was such a sweet person. I'm sure her influence could be only for the very kindest.
Well, I'm glad you're adopting that attitude, darling. Especially
As what, Aunt Alice?
Well, I'd rather not talk about it.
Oh, no, please, tell me.
Well, this is really David's story. Do you mind if I tell, Catherine? Well, of course you don't. You see, the day after Louisa's death, David saw her.
You saw her?
Only a pinpoint of light, wasn't it, darling? But her voice was unmistakable.
She spoke
softly and with the greatest effort. But she was distressed about something, wasn't she, David? She seemed to be sobbing.
But
I know you didn't want me to tell Catherine, darling. But she's very level-headed, and she should know. After all, if you love someone, it's comforting to know that they're around, isn't it?
Well, yes, but...
Now, let's not talk any more about it. We mustn't make you worried.
By the end of the meal, Catherine had unbent completely, and I found myself liking her more and more as the evening wore on. Then, finally, the clock struck 11, and Mother rose to her feet.
Darlings, it's so late. Just look at the time. But it's been a most enjoyable evening.
Oh, I've enjoyed myself tremendously. Thank you, Aunt Alice.
Tomorrow it's tennis for you. Anything to exercise this lazy boy here.
I haven't played tennis for ages, but it should be fun.
I thought you were very keen on it.
Well, I had to give it up some time ago.
Oh?
I had heart trouble.
Heart trouble?
Oh, but it's all right now.
I'd no idea, Catherine. But then, of course, we haven't seen much of each other, have we? Anyway, we'll remedy that in the future, won't we? Well, here's your room, dear. Oh, good. Peters has remembered to light the fire. There's a bell if you need anything. And I do hope you sleep wonderfully.
Thank you, Aunt Alice. You've really been very kind.
Good night, darling. Be seeing you in the morning.
Good night, David.
Good night.
Well, that went magnificently. But no thanks to you, David. You were no help at all. You contributed nothing. I had to create the whole atmosphere.
Because I felt thoroughly ashamed of myself, that's why.
David.
You told that unfortunate girl a pack of ghastly lies.
Keep your voice down or she'll hear.
I hope she does. Mother, you aren't going through with this.
If you intend to work yourself into hysterics, kindly leave me and go to bed immediately. We'll wait until 12 o'clock. That is the witching hour.
Mother, she's a decent girl. Don't frighten her out of her wits. And remember what she said about her heart. What'll happen if she dies? What then? There'll be the police, there'll be questions, and I couldn't stand it.
The trouble with you, David, is that you're a coward.
I'm not a criminal, and that's what you are.
I'm only claiming what is mine by right.
Ask her for it, then. She'll understand, and don't stoop to this deception. She'll give you the wretched money.
That is extremely unlikely. Now, let's not stand out here in the passage arguing. We'll go downstairs and wait until 12 o'clock. Come along, David.
Once again, I followed her obediently. But this time my whole being rebelled against her. For the first time I found myself disliking her. Then in some peculiar way she seemed to sense what I felt, because she looked up at me with her hooded brown eyes and said,
"It's no good hating me, David. I'm doing this for you."
"I don't want you to do it for me. I can manage."
"Darling, let's be realistic. You've never done a day's work in all your young life. You've sat back and given me the privilege of waiting on you."
"That's the way you wanted it, because of your domination."
"Darling, how ridiculous you are. And do stop shouting." "Oh, good. It's 12 o'clock. Now we put part 2 into operation. The recorder has been hidden behind her wardrobe. But the switch is in the passage. It was really very clever of me. Then we'll wait and see what happens. It should be most interesting.
The passage was pitch black, and there seemed a clamminess permeating the whole atmosphere. It almost seemed that one of the dead was with us. I stood back and watched her, with hate in my heart, for her and my weakness. She had it all organized perfectly. She bent to switch on the machine, and as she did so, I knew we weren't alone. There was someone else. I backed away, seeking to escape the malignancy of the presence. I gasped, but Mother was preoccupied with her plans. I remember she turned.
David, for goodness sake, what's the matter?
Don't you feel it? Don't you?
Feel it? Feel what?
There's someone.
What are you talking about? There's no one. Now, don't try and distract me, David.
Let's leave. There is someone. Something. There is.
Of course there isn't.
She turned sharply from me, and her eyes widened with horror as she gazed with frightened intensity towards the end of the passage. I could see nothing. Then she gasped.
Louisa! Louisa, you...
I could hear nothing. I could see nothing. But I was aware of the rising tide of animosity and hate. Then, suddenly, my mother covered her eyes with her hands. She stumbled backward.
No, Louisa! No!
She turned. She tried to run, but she crashed to the floor with a scream of sheer terror that made my blood run cold. She lay quietly, but I knew even before I touched her, she was dead. The doctor came and the police came. There were many questions, and there'll be many more. They found the tape recorder and the switch. I remember our old lawyer, Ratcliffe.
Things are going to be difficult for you, David. There are so many explanations needed.
But I've told you everything, Mr. Ratcliffe. She stumbled and she was dead before I got to her.
A distressing and unfortunate affair. We can only wait for the doctor's report to be phoned through. It's unsatisfactory, and you can't blame the police feeling as they do. Your mother planned to frighten Catherine into handing over the money by imitating Miss Louisa's voice. And then suddenly, the deceased rarely arrives.
And that's what did happen. I didn't see her, but my mother did. I swear it to you.
But it's so unlikely, and... Excuse me, that might be the doctor. Yes? Yes? Most extraordinary. Yes, well, yes. Very well, thank you.
Well, and what was the cause of death? Well?
It's most extraordinary. It seems that your mother died of fright.
Time. The silent herald of life and death. Success or failure. The unseen force that measures man's destiny, reaching its most fateful moment as it slowly strikes the 11th hour. Time, the silent herald of life and death, success or failure, the unseen force that measures man's destiny, reaching its most fateful moment as it slowly strikes the 11th hour.
You're late.
Sorry, Steve. Got held up. I'm not sure if the bus is from the other side of the town.
How are you liking the job?
Oh, don't even ask me. I can't see myself staying there very long.
Oh, why?
Well, it's weird, Steve. It really is. I suppose it's natural for a couple of middle-aged spinsters to lead a restricted life. But Clara and Anne Pettigrew are the oddest pair I've ever met. Oh, but don't let's talk about it. It's my half day off, and I don't want to spend it talking about them. How are things with you?
A bit in the doldrums, as a matter of fact. Nothing doing at all. Your favorite reporters without an assignment.
No crimes, no thrills, no scandals.
That's right. Everyone in this part of the world's too darned law-abiding. As a matter of fact, you may be able to help me.
Me? Help you? In what way, Steve?
Well, I was talking to the editor this morning, and I've got an idea for a sort of human interest series, written around old crimes and the people who committed them. You know, this sort of 30 years after. This is what the results of the crime have been, and these are the people who were involved.
But where do I come in? I mean, you said that I could help you.
Well, it's to do with your present new employers.
The Pettigrews?
That's right. I was looking through all the old cases of 20 years ago when I got this idea. Now, you won't remember it, and I was just a kid when it happened. But the Pettigrews were notorious at the time. You see, originally, there were 3 sisters. Anne, Clara, and a younger sister named Nancy.
Oh, and then what happened to Nancy? Did she die?
Yes, she died. She was murdered. Anne battered her to death with a hatchet one summer's afternoon.
Steve, you can't mean this. Did Anne Pettigrew murder her sister?
She did, and in the most horrible way. You've been working for the Pettigrews for only a couple of days, and yet you already admit that there's something very odd about the family. I don't wonder.
Tell me what happened.
Well, from what I can dig up, Anne was always a little fey. You know what I mean. She'd go off into daydreams all the time, not knowing where she was or what she was doing. She was terribly jealous when Nancy announced her intention of marrying a man called Lazarus Pound. A most unusual name, you'll agree. Well, on the afternoon after they'd announced their engagement, Nancy was found on the veranda of the house, beaten to death. Clara called the police, and they found Anne later. She was wandering around in the fields that surrounded the house, carrying a blood-stained hatchet in her hands.
Steve, I can't believe it. Not Anne. She's so pathetic, almost childlike.
Nonetheless, it's true.
What happened? Did Anne plead guilty?
Yes, but it was hardly necessary. She was in a complete daze the whole time. She admitted everything at the trial and was committed to an institute for unbalanced people. She lived in the place for 20 years.
20 years? Then she's only just come home.
She's been back for a couple of years or so.
And Clara has kept the place going all that time, waiting for her?
Yes, they were very young at the time.
Well, what happened to this man Lazarus, the man Nancy intended marrying?
Who knows? That may well be one of the interesting angles to dig up when we revive the story. You will help me with my idea?
I can't promise that, Steve. I want to know considerably more about Anne and Clara Pettigrew. I won't do anything that will hurt them in any way. Even idle chatter could do them harm, and I won't allow that to happen. You understand? Anne.
Anne, dear.
Oh, I'm sorry, Clara. I must have dozed off.
Of course you did. But it's all right. Are you feeling better?
Much better, thank you, Clara, dear.
Will you have your tea now?
I don't think I'll have any this afternoon, thank you, Clara.
Not have any? But you always have tea at this time. Your new nurse, Gladys, says that it's good for you to take refreshment regularly.
I know, and I like Gladys, I really do. She's very understanding. I can tell that, but I don't think I'll have any tea, thank you, Clara. Perhaps it's just that I feel I want a change.
A change?
Yes. Don't you ever feel that way, Clara?
Not often. Whenever I do, I remind myself that I'm very lucky to have what I've got. A good home, a roof over my head, and, well, sufficient money to live comfortably for the rest of my life.
Oh, yes, of course. I know you're right, but sometimes I can't help wondering what it must be like to live a different sort of life.
Now, Anne, don't start your daydreaming. You know what the doctor said? You mustn't indulge in these flights of fantasy.
But it isn't one of those. I assure you, Clara, it isn't. I'm not being fanciful, and I know exactly what I'm saying. They taught me that in the hospital. They taught me to be able to tell when I was experiencing something or just thinking about it.
And you're just thinking about things now, Anne. You're thinking of the past, and that's bad, my dear. You know that they told you when you left the hospital that you should try to forget.
Yes, temporary insanity. That's what the doctors call it.
Anne.
Oh, please. You've just told me that I must face facts. The things I did years ago have nothing to do with today. They were temporary. That was what the word means, isn't it? Just for the moment, with no meaning beyond it, nothing permanent. That's what I went through, wasn't it, Clara?
Of course it was. Now, please, forget it all.
Clara, I must tell you something. You mustn't think I'm fanciful or silly or just dreaming, but I want to talk to you about Lazarus.
Anne, please.
I know we haven't talked about him for ages, but, well, I must.
Now, look, Anne, this is foolish.
No, it's not.
It is. I won't have this self-indulgence. You must forget the past. Forget everything that happened. And more than anything, you must forget about Lazarus Pound.
Don't be cross with me, Clara, but I can't forget Lazarus. I've never been able to forget him. His visits here brightened our lives, didn't they? We were all so happy when Lazarus came to call.
Anne, you must stop this.
I used to wait for his footsteps on the veranda outside. I used to think that he came especially to see me.
Anne, I'll not have you go on like this. All that was 20 years ago. It's over and done with. Let it stay buried in the past. Buried with Nancy.
Nancy. Yes, of course. I'm sorry, Clara. I was forgetting. I think I'll have some tea now, Clara, and then I'll go down into town to attend the sewing circle.
That's better. That's more like the sister I can rely on. You must realize that we're two middle-aged spinsters, Anne. It's no use trying to fight it. We're unmarried and we'll remain that way until the day we die. You won't ever see Lazarus Pond again, any more than you'll see Nancy again. It's all over, finished and done with. Now, I'll go and put the kettle on. You can have your tea and think of other things. Get your sewing out. You must show everyone what you've done during the last few days. Well, I shan't be long.
Yes, all right, Clara. And Clara...
Yes, Anne?
Nothing. Just thank you.
Silly girl.
Silly girl. No, I'm not a girl. I'm a girl no longer. But I was a girl once, and I wasn't silly then. At least, not about some things. And I did love Lazarus. I loved him so much. I did so much want to make him want me. If I could commit a dreadful crime and ruin our lives because I loved him so much, then I may as well go on. I may as well go on and force him to come back to me. I'll do anything to have him back here again. Anything.
It's time that you took your milk, Miss Anne.
Oh, Gladys.
It's already quite late. But you looked so peaceful sitting here under the trees that I didn't like to disturb you.
I seem to drop off to sleep so easily these days.
That's good. It shows that you're contented.
Does it? I wonder. Perhaps it's just an indulgence. A desire to escape from the world and what the world has to offer.
Now, don't you worry your head about the past, Miss Anne. I understand.
You understand? You mean you know? You know all about me?
I know enough to want to look after you, to want to care for you and to be with you.
Well, I don't believe that you can feel this affection.
Oh, but I do.
There must be another reason. You must have some other motive.
Why do you say that?
Because I can tell. I've been studying these things. Ever since they let me come home, I've been studying these things, and I know when anyone's telling the truth.
I am, Miss Anne. Believe me, I'm truthful towards you. I want to help you.
What do you know about me?
Well, I know that you've been in hospital for years and that you need a nurse to look after you. That's why I'm here. I'll look after you.
You know that I'm capable of killing people?
I know you were,
But times have changed. You aren't the person you were years ago. You're a responsible adult person who's living in an active, useful life. Yes, that's what they told me I was to think. That's what every doctor in the hospital said I should say to myself over and over again until I believed. Well, they were right. Were they? Then how can you explain my inmost desires, Gladys? What do you mean? I want to see Lazarus again. More than anything in life. I want to see him in this house as he used to be years ago. What happened to him? He's coming home. He wrote to me and told me he's coming home. Well, that's my one desire, Gladys. I only have one fear, and that's that he won't come to me. No, that's not my only fear. I have another one. Oh, it's a dreadful one, but I can't help it coming to my thoughts. What is it? I'm afraid that Clara may try to stop him coming back, and that if she does, I want to kill again, like I did 20 years ago.
How's it going, Gladys?
You mean the job?
Yes. Did you speak to Anne Pettigrew? Did you talk her into giving me an interview?
I did my best. I'm afraid that Anne Pettigrew isn't an ordinary type of person, Steve. I mean, you can't make the usual arrangements with her. She's not really quite balanced enough.
Oh, I know that, but I just want to talk to her. Can't you convince her that all I want to do is to help?
She has an uncanny knack of knowing when people are being truthful or not. In many ways, she's no fool.
But I'm quite sincere. I do want to help.
There's only one way that you can persuade her of that.
Oh? And what's that?
Well, she's obsessed with the idea of seeing this man Lazarus again. And from what I can gather, they've been in touch since she came out of hospital. She keeps writing to him, but he stopped replying, and now she's frantic. If you can persuade her that you can use the newspaper in some way and appeal to him to write, something like that, then she may talk to you.
I see what you mean. You think it will work?
Well, it might. But, Steve, I'm not at all happy about this. I mean, I'm supposed to be looking after this woman. As a nurse, I feel that I'm not doing my job properly. My patient's health should come first.
But it isn't going to do Anne any harm at all. Who knows, it may even do her some good. Oh, now, come on, honey. Help your boyfriend on his first solo assignment. Get me that interview.
All right. I'll do my best. It had better be in the afternoon. That's when Clara goes out and Anne is left in my care. I'll arrange it as soon as I can. Well, here he is, Miss Pettigrew. Oh, so you're Gladys's boyfriend, are you?
That's right, Miss Pettigrew. My name is Stephen Rayner. I work on the Clarkdale Gazette.
Yes. Gladys has told me something about you. Do sit down, young man. Now, don't tire, Miss Pettigrew, Steve. I'll slip into the house and arrange for your tea, Miss Anne. Thank you, my dear, thank you. Shan't be long, Steve. And when I come back, you'll have to go.
All right. I only called for a moment to pay my respects, Miss Pettigrew, that's all.
Oh, then you don't think you can help me?
Help you? In what way?
Gladys was telling me that you might get a sort of appeal put in your paper. An old friend of mine, a very old friend, said he would come and visit me, and he hasn't. But it's really so disappointing.
Now, please, don't let it upset you. I'm sure that if you tell me everything, I will be able to help you.
Oh, you think you could? You really think you could?
Of course. Now take it all slowly, and I'll try to think out the best way. Tell me everything. Absolutely everything.
It's a wild night, Anne.
Yes, isn't it?
You aren't upset by it?
No, not at all.
But thunderstorms always upset you.
I'm no longer afraid of such things. In fact, I rather welcome them. The forces of nature are wonderful, aren't they?
Anne, what have you been up to lately? I was talking to the vicar about you only this morning. You've changed during the last few weeks. You're always too tired to attend church on Sundays, and yet you went out 3 evenings last week. What is this fellowship group you've joined? I mentioned the name to the vicar, and he'd never heard of it.
I've told you, Clara. It's just a group we formed at the sewing circle. Oh, but you wouldn't like it. You don't like sewing. You prefer more active things like working in the cellar, laying a new floor, and well, I can't do those things, but I can sew.
But why all these books?
Oh, just patterns, that's all, and a few books lent to me by other members.
May I see them?
I'd rather you didn't. You wouldn't be interested anyway.
But Anne...
Please, Clara, you must let me live my own life.
Oh, very well. I suppose if it stopped you being afraid, given you confidence and other interests, then it's something to be thankful for. Well, I think I'll go to bed, Anne. How about you?
No, I shan't go up yet. I'll wait till the storm passes. It'll clear soon, I think. Wind is strong. I may even see the stars.
The stars. That's another extraordinary interest you've developed. Stargazing.
Astronomy is a very great science.
I've no doubt. But you interest yourself more in astrology. That isn't so scientific. Do you think you can tell the future by all the gaping at the heavens?
Oh, you can scoff, Clara, but I can tell you more than you think. Tonight is Thursday the 22nd, and Venus is in conjunction with Saturn. Do you know that this evening is the Sabbath of...
What was that?
It doesn't matter. Go to bed, Clara, and leave me alone. I'm all right.
Oh, dear, you've been in some strange moods lately. Oh, all right, Anne. And don't forget to turn the lights out when you come up.
Four plus 2, which is the number of Venus. That's it. Now it's complete. The powers of the occult must be obeyed. Now the talisman of Set and the order of darkness. There. By this talisman, by the ancient and secret rites of Pan, I have conjured thee, Lazarus Pound. Oh, Clara.
Anne, what are you doing?
Clara, please go away. Go back to bed.
Have you taken leave of your senses? What's this? A white circle on the floor. A 5-pointed star. These charts. The charts of macrocosm. And these bones. Anne, do you realize what you're dabbling in?
Go away, Clara.
I will not. Anne Pettigrew, you're a grown woman and you're no longer ill. You mustn't behave in this childish manner. You must stop this nonsense.
It isn't nonsense. It works. It's the only thing that can bring him back. You can't do anything about it, Clara. They listened to my request at the last meeting. They've already said the rites, and tonight's the time. At the meeting of Venus and Saturn, and any moment he will come. No matter where he is in the world, he'll have to come here. Not even Lazarus can refuse the powers of darkness.
So that's what that sewing circle was all about, is it? You've joined some phony society and started dabbling in black magic. Oh, Anne, my dear, please, this is so bad for you.
It's not bad. Nothing's bad that brings Lazarus back to me. I've even killed for him, and I've never felt guilty about it. He'll come. He has to.
Please, Anne, don't get hysterical. Lazarus can't come back. Not tonight or any other night. It's impossible because Lazarus Pound is dead. What did you say? I'm sorry, my dear. I didn't want to tell you, but it's true. Lazarus died only a short while ago. I had a letter from his employers. It came in answer to the ones you sent to him.
I don't believe you.
It's true.
It can't be. You're lying to me. You've been keeping my letters back, haven't you? You were afraid that I'd get Lazarus in the end. You were jealous of me and my determination to get him. Well, it's too late now. You can't stop this.
Anne, you're becoming hysterical.
He's coming. Listen. You can hear the footsteps on the veranda.
It can't be.
It's Lazarus. I'd know that walk anywhere.
No, it can't be. Lazarus is dead.
No, he's alive.
Anne, come away from that door.
But he's there. He's here.
It can't be. It can't. I forbid it. No.
Let go to him.
You shan't. You shan't. Stay away. Do you hear me? Keep away. Lazarus! No. Don't you understand? Even his name, Lazarus. Don't open it. You'll be opening that door to a dead man. Let me go! Let me go! I won't let you go out there. I won't. He isn't dead. He isn't. Yes, he is. I tell you he is. I know he is because I killed him. What? I said I killed Lazarus Pound. I killed him and buried him under the new floor in the cellar. I killed him in the same way that I killed Nancy all those years ago. You killed Nancy? That's right. I don't care what sort of black magic you've been dabbling in. You can't alter the facts. I don't understand. And I didn't kill Nancy. That's why I've never felt guilty. Yet you let me think that I'd been responsible. You were having one of your odd spells. Everyone knew that you didn't remember anything you'd done during those times. I knew you'd get away with it, and I wouldn't. It was easier that way. You needed treatment anyway. Lazarus, he came back as you asked him to. But he began asking too many questions. We quarreled. I had to silence him, too. He's buried in the cellar. Down there, in the cellar. So that's what you were doing, working down there? Yes. Now you know everything, Anne. Your black magic hasn't helped you one bit, has it? Oh, it's no use thinking you can go to the police either. No one will believe you. They'll just lock you up again. You can be sure of that. From now on, you'll do exactly as I tell you to. Understand? But Lazarus, outside... That black magic and the storm had me scared for a moment. But whoever it was has gone away, thank heavens.
Oh, no, they haven't.
What?
Stay where you are, Miss Pettigrew. Quickly, Gladys, look after Anne.
Of course. It's all right, Miss Anne. Everything's all right now.
We've heard everything you've said, Miss Pettigrew. I guessed there was something more in this than the pathetic story Anne told me the other day, and that's why we worked this little plan. We came in through the French window some minutes ago. I think you'd better telephone the police, Gladys.
Right away, Steve.
Oh, no. What am I thinking about? First things first. Get me the city desk of the Gazette. I wanted a scoop, didn't I? Well, I've certainly got one this time. Sit down, Miss Pettigrew. You won't have long to wait. I'll see to that.
Time. The silent herald of life and death. Success or failure. The unseen force that measures man's destiny, reaching its most fateful moment as it slowly strikes the 11th hour.
The silent herald of life and death, success or failure. The unseen force that measures man's destiny, reaching its most fateful moment as it slowly strikes the 11th hour.
Mr. Oakman, what are you doing here in the office at this time of night?
I had such a headache, I didn't notice the time. What is it, by the way?
It's 7:45. Why are you here so late?
I might well ask you the same question.
I left my umbrella behind. It's raining. On my way home from visiting a friend, I decided to call in and collect it. I have my key, of course. I saw the light on in here. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
Mr. Oakman, you aren't ill again, are you?
No, it's just this wretched migraine. It's been with me most of the day. I keep pills in the desk here.
I thought if I took some and sat quietly, it would pass. Must have fallen asleep. Stupid of me.
Well, you're certainly in no condition to drive. I think I'd better call a taxi. And on the way to your home, I think you'd better tell me everything, Mr. Oakman. You can trust me, you know. No matter what trouble you're in, you can trust me.
In here, Doc. Grateful you answered the call so promptly.
Well, strangely enough, Inspector, I was on my way to this block of flats. I have a patient on the second floor, but what seems to be the trouble?
The caretaker of the block noticed water overflowing from the waste pipe of this flat and used his pass key. Went into the bathroom. Oh, that's through this way.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what he found. Well, what do you say?
Great heavens. A woman in the bath. Must have drowned.
Oh, yes, she's dead, all right. Gold watch on her wrist says 6:30.
This is too dreadful. You see, I know this woman, Inspector. I recognized her the moment I raised her head. She's Elaine Oakman. I knew her and her husband, Keith Oakman, quite well. Oh, what a dreadful tragedy. Poor Elaine.
You knew her?
Yes, I was more of a friend of her husband's, but I used to be very friendly.
Any idea how she died?
Well, of course, it's far too early to say. I shall have to make a complete examination. It could be many things. Heart attack. Heat overcame her. It's impossible to say right away.
I can obtain authority to perform a post-mortem.
Does that mean that you don't consider this to be a case of accidental drowning?
Who can say? You say you knew this woman quite well. What sort of a person was she?
Well, she was always extremely nice to me. I rather lost touch with them after they decided to go and live in the country. There was a time when their marriage looked as though it was going on the rocks. They decided that a quieter life might be better for both of them. I didn't know that Elaine had returned to town.
The caretaker says she'd been in the flat for about 2 months. Lived alone.
Well, I'll carry out a complete examination and
I wonder who that can be.
Want me to find out? Let's close this bathroom door first. This should be interesting.
Good evening. Is Elaine here?
Would you like to come in?
Thank you. Perhaps I should introduce myself. I'm Jim Macy.
Dr. Kenneth Raven. This is Inspector Kimball.
How do you do?
You mean?
I didn't quite understand. A doctor and a police inspector. There's nothing wrong with Elaine, is there? I've called to take her out. She's not in trouble, is she?
You'd better put those flowers down, young man, and prepare for a shock. Elaine Oakman is dead.
Dead? But she can't be. It isn't possible.
She died earlier this evening in the bathroom.
I was speaking to her on the telephone just this afternoon. We made a date to go out to supper. I can't believe it. What happened? I mean, how did she die?
We're not sure. Looks as though she may have had a heart attack through taking an over-hot bath.
Oh, poor Elaine. She didn't say anything about feeling ill when I telephoned. She just said she was depressed, that's all.
Depressed?
Yes. Elaine was always so gay and carefree. It was unusual for her to feel miserable. That's why I brought the flowers. Why I was taking her out.
You knew Mrs. Oakman well?
Oh, yes, all my life. We used to go to school together when we were kids. She was older than me. Treated me like a kid brother.
No romantic inclinations?
Good heavens, no. Now I'm engaged to be married. A girl nearer my own age. Christine Larwood. She lives just out of town in Ashford.
I see. Well, if you knew Mrs. Oakman well, then you may be able to tell us where we can get in touch with her husband.
Oh, he lives in Ashford, too. Elaine parted from him nearly a year ago. I'm not sure of the address, but Keith Oakman's in the telephone book. It's an unusual name. I'm sure it's the only one in that district.
Thank you. Doc, I wonder, would you mind? As you knew him, you may be able to break the news a little more gently than I can.
Oh, I'll do my best. Telephone's through in the hall, isn't it?
Yes.
No, don't worry. I'll find it.
Now, Mr. Macy, perhaps you'll be good enough to tell me some more about Mrs. Oakman. You say that she and her husband were separated.
Yes. Keith Oakman's rather a studious, serious-minded man, and Elaine was always so full of fun and vitality. She said she just couldn't adapt herself to the country life, that had made the marriage even more tedious.
She had plenty of friends?
Oh, yes, she was very popular at all the parties.
Not any one particular person? I mean a boyfriend.
It's funny you should ask that. I've often wondered if there was another man, that he might be the reason for her marriage breaking up. But she never told me about him. Oh, she wouldn't anyway.
Oh, why do you say that?
Well, Elaine was funny in that respect. She always treated me as one of her family, but, well, you don't tell your kid brother about your romances. I'm sure there was someone there.
Oh, we'll remember that.
I can't get Keith Oakman, Inspector.
No.
His housekeeper says he left for his office early this morning and hasn't returned. I got the office number and rang that too, but there was no reply. That's not surprising this late in the day.
Well, we must get in touch with him as soon as possible.
Do you want me any more, Inspector? I'm still feeling a bit shocked.
No, you may go, Mr. Macy. Just leave me your address and telephone number, if you don't mind.
Yes, of course.
And I think we'd better get the body over to the hospital. The moment the photographers and fingerprint boys are through, I'd like a post-mortem. It's essential that we know exactly how Elaine Oakman died. Well, Doc, what's the news this morning?
All the information you want is right here, Inspector. The tests show that the samples of blood from both sides of the heart do not have the same salt content.
What does that mean?
It means that the woman died by taking in fresh water, which diluted the salt content on the left side. In other words, death by drowning in fresh water.
Yes. So it points to accidental death.
Looks like it. You sound disappointed.
I wouldn't say that, but I've got a hunch about this case. No other marks on the body?
No, we're doing toxic tests on the blood, but the blood specimen needs to stand in picric acid for some hours before I can report.
I see. Look, Doc, can you withhold all information for a while? I've a special reason for asking this. If I report accidental death at this stage, they'll take me off the case, and I'm not satisfied. The moment I saw the body, I had a sure feeling that we were dealing with a murder.
Just a hunch, or something made you suspicious?
Several things. There's so many conflicting prints, you'd think it was a help-yourself supermarket. Elaine Oakman had a lot of callers. There was also this. I found it in the rubbish bin in the kitchen. Here, read it.
Small card. Can't we forgive and forget as from tonight, K?
Looks as though it came with some flowers. It was in a cellophane bag with a few cut stalks and leaves. I checked. A bouquet arrived just after 5 yesterday afternoon.
Typewritten and signed with a K. Do you think he could be...
Her husband, Keith? May well be.
You've traced him?
Yes. Seems he hasn't been well lately. I heard of his secretary. She seems a sensible, efficient woman. I'm going back to my office. She says she'll come round and tell me everything she can about last evening. Sounds promising. I'd like to come along. I have an idea we'll learn quite a lot.
I'm afraid that's all I can tell you, Inspector. I do hope that it's of some help to you.
You're telling me that your boss, Keith Oakman, asked you to stay late at his office last night. That he then suffered a reoccurrence of his migraine attacks. You gave him his usual pills, which had a soporific effect, and stayed in the office until he had slept and recovered sufficiently for you to hire a taxi and take him to your home.
Yes, that's correct. You see, Mr. Oakman suffers dreadfully with this complaint. When it strikes him, he can't do a thing. He must lie in a darkened room. I took him to my flat and left him while I got his car from the garage and parked it ready for him to drive home.
And what time was that?
Oh, just before midnight.
Excuse me, but when I telephoned the office sometime earlier, there was no reply.
Oh, I didn't answer the phone. I didn't want anyone to know. I certainly didn't wish it to be known that... Well, that I'd insisted he rested at my home. I mean, it's embarrassing, but you know what I mean.
The main thing is that you were with Keith Oakman at 6:30 last night.
Yes. Yes, that's right. I was.
Are you quite sure of this, Miss Harris? You didn't perhaps go out of the office, leave it at all, and come back later?
No, Doctor. I remember thinking that it didn't matter too much about working late because it was raining and I had no umbrella.
There was no way that Mr. Oakman could have left his office and returned without your knowing?
No way at all, Inspector. I don't quite understand these questions. Why is the time factor so important? You've asked me about my employer's physical condition, and I've told you all I can. What has all this got to do with Mr. Oakman?
Mrs. Elaine Oakman, Mr. Oakman's estranged wife, died last night. You know that, don't you?
I read about it in the papers this morning. She had an accident, apparently. Isn't that true?
Supposing I told you... No. Supposing I told you that the doctor's post-mortem revealed that Elaine Oakman was murdered.
Surely that isn't possible. I mean the report in the paper.
If it was as simple as all that, I shouldn't be here questioning you, should I? I repeat, Miss Harris, supposing it is murder.
Well, supposing it is.
You don't seem surprised.
I read the newspaper, Inspector. Elaine Oakman is dead. And frankly, an accident or not, I would still feel the same way.
And what's that?
I should still feel intense relief. Keith had a bitterly unhappy life with that dreadful woman.
Oh?
If she was killed, then I have only admiration for whoever did the deed. Elaine Oakman deserved it. I repeat, she deserved to die. Melodramatic, Inspector. But during the course of your investigations, you will find that Elaine Oakman was a dreadful woman. You will certainly find plenty of suspects. Elaine was extremely popular with a certain type of man.
Miss Harris, that is quite an accusation. Are you sure of your facts?
You profess to have known these two people, Dr. Raven. Surely, if this is so, you must agree with me. Their marriage was a disaster, and it was solely because Elaine Oakman couldn't keep her hands off other men. There, is that frank enough for you? Well, I've told you all I can, Inspector. May I go now?
Yes, of course, Miss Harrison. Thank you for your cooperation. Oh, before you go, one small matter. Do you recognize this?
What is it? Let me see. Oh, a cigarette case. No, I'm afraid I don't. Sorry.
It's all right. Thank you, Miss Harris, for your help. Good day.
Good morning, Inspector.
Well, I suppose we must have learned something from that. What do you think, Doc?
I'd say it was the classic case of a woman in love with her boss.
Yes, I think you're right there. What's your opinion of her condemnation of Elaine Oakman?
Well, now, that's difficult for me to say. I can't say what sort of life Elaine was living in the city, although I do admit that in the old days she had the reputation of a good-time girl. Why, she even set her cap at me at one stage.
Oh, did she?
Yes. Of course, I treated it as a joke. Could never be anything else. But, Inspector, what was that case you handed to Anne Harris, that fresh piece of evidence?
Yeah, it was nothing of the kind. Just my own cigarette case. Useful for taking fingerprints.
I say, you mean that you think...
You can never tell, can you, Doc? If Miss Harris is that keen on her boss, then one doesn't know to what lengths she'll go to protect him. She may even have helped him to do a murder.
You really believe that?
I don't believe anything. I'm trying to find out facts. Look, I'd like to talk to Keith Oakman next, but this youngster, Jim Macy, and his girlfriend, Christine Larwood, are waiting outside. Would you mind talking to them?
No, of course not. But what do you want me to say?
Just appear to be entertaining them, filling in the time for me. But keep a watch on the conversation. They may unbend more in your company than mine. What I really want to discover is if at any time there was a quarrel between Elaine Oakman and her husband. Now, this fellow, Jim Macy, may have certain knowledge. If you could question him and try and find out...
Very distressing, but I'm sure after a while it will be proved to be just another unfortunate accident.
Oh, I'm so glad, Doctor. I was really very shocked. I thought I'd better report back to the inspector, but Christine insisted upon coming with me.
Of course I did. It's been a dreadful time for Jim. So horrible to think of that poor woman dying in the way she did. Horrible.
Oh, easy, darling. You didn't know Elaine then, Miss Larwood?
No, we'd never met. Jim had told me all about her, of course. She'd been very good to him over the years.
She was a good friend. Many people were critical of her free and easy life. Well, perhaps she was a bit bohemian, but as far as I'm concerned, she was always generous and warm-hearted. I'm very sad.
Yes, I can well believe that. You must have thought a great deal to have called on her when you knew she was feeling low. Brought flowers for her, too.
And sent me home early.
Oh, did he do that?
Yes. Pushed me on the 6:30 train with his arm filled with carnations to take to some other woman.
Oh, darling, don't put it like that. You knew why I was doing it.
Yes, of course. The doctor knows I'm only teasing you.
Of course. Will you excuse me now? I think the inspector will be awaiting the full details of the post-mortem. I'd better go to him.
Oh, then you can tell us, Doctor. Did Mrs. Oakman die a natural death?
As far as I'm concerned, Miss Larwood, a perfectly natural one. Now, if you please excuse me, I must see Mr. Oakman, too. Well, Keith, it's a very long time since we met.
Yes, Ken, it is. It's quite a few years, eh?
I'm awfully sorry that it has to be under such very tragic circumstances. I can't tell you how shocked I was to be called into the case and find it was Elaine.
Yes, I can't tell you what this has done to me. I've been trying to explain to the inspector. I still can't believe it.
Take a chair, Doc, and relax. How'd things go outside?
Oh, very well. Everything quite correct.
I thought it would be. Now, Mr. Oakman, I'd like you to tell me about your movements yesterday as clearly as you can recall.
Well, I'm afraid my recollections aren't that good, Inspector. Dr. Raven will confirm that I've always had these wretched migraine headaches. They started years back when he knew us quite well.
Well, that's true. I've often prescribed for you.
I still use the same stuff. Well, yesterday afternoon, I had a particularly vicious attack. It was late in the afternoon, and I had some pills in my desk. I took some and turned out the lights. It's essential that I remain in the dark and rest. Everyone in the office went home.
Everyone?
Well, everyone, except Miss Harris, my secretary. She came later on. She came in and found me at about 7:30. 7:45 might have been. The migraine was passing, but my mind was still a blank. Miss Harris is used to these attacks, so she got a taxi and we went to her flat where I took another pill and remained resting quietly until she'd collected my car from the garage. Then, later, it had all cleared and I was feeling all right. I drove myself home.
So from about 5-ish until nearly midnight, you were more or less alone, suffering from migraine. And you don't remember anything happening during that time? Other callers, telephone calls, anything like that?
I'm afraid you don't appreciate this type of affliction, Inspector. The subsequent loss of memory is quite common in these cases, isn't it, Ken?
I wouldn't say common, Keith, but I've known it occur several times in your own case.
Right. I think that's all, Mr. Oakman. Oh, before you go, tell me, was your wife in the habit of keeping a diary?
Well, I really can't say, Inspector. She was a stickler for writing things down, always kept an engagement book. I know that. Wouldn't be surprised if she did, keep a diary as well. Why do you ask?
Nothing. I just thought that if she did keep a diary and we could lay our hands on it, we'd probably save ourselves a great deal of interrogation time, wouldn't we?
Why didn't you say that I was at the office the whole while? Why did you say I returned later?
Miss Harris, Anne, my dear, I know that you meant well by urging me to support your story, but really, the police would only have found out later on.
Found out what?
That I had a temporary amnesia. That after taking the pills, I can't recall what I did. I think I was in the office all the time, but I can't say for sure. I may have gone out, wandered the streets. I don't know.
But aren't you afraid?
Well, of what?
Well, the police will think that you went to call on Elaine. You were instrumental in causing her death, that you drowned her.
But why would I do a thing like that?
Elaine wanted a divorce. You didn't want to give her one. There could have been a scene. You might have lost your temper.
No.
I don't think you appreciate the position you're in. Look at it this way. The office goes home at 4:30. You remain. You pretend to have a migraine.
But I did.
This is what the police will say. You take a few pills from the bottle, turn out the lights. You leave for Elaine's flat, throwing away the pills in a gutter. At the flat, you let yourself in with your key. You have a key to her flat, haven't you?
Yes, I do.
Well, Elaine was going out. She'd run the bath water, perhaps even stepped into the bath when you arrived. As her husband, you are about the only person on such intimate terms that you could enter her bathroom without her screaming for help.
I see what you mean.
Mr. Oakman, Keith, you've got to face this. You're in grave danger. The way you've told the story makes the police think that you have something to hide. Have you anything to hide, Keith? Well, have you?
I thought I'd better come back and explain in more detail, Inspector. My secretary made out quite a good police case against me.
Yes. Could have worked that way, couldn't it?
But it didn't.
No, of course not.
What, then, you don't suspect me?
Let's say I'm not working on those lines at the moment, shall we?
Then may I ask...
What lines I am working on?
Yes.
All right, I will tell you. Then, with your permission, we'll try a little experiment in your wife's flat.
Anything you say, but please do explain.
I'll try. First of all, motive. Who are the persons most likely to want to see Elaine out of the way?
Well, you'd have to count me in there, I suppose. The estranged husband, the constant wrangle about a divorce.
Naturally, you headed the list. There may well be plenty of people who think you did kill your wife. I firmly believe that your secretary, Miss Harris, does, for one. Not that she'd let you down. In fact, I rather believe that she'd commit murder for you.
You don't suspect her, surely?
No, although she could have done it. But you're both so obviously trying to protect each other that it's clear you aren't lying. No. Now, the guilty person is someone who wants a perfect alibi. You see, the person who killed Elaine drowned her, then let the water out of the bath and smashed the wristlet watch at 6:30. An expensive watch. Asking a lot to leave it on your wrist while taking a bath. That didn't ring true for a start. As I was saying, the murderer then turned the water taps on to give a slow flow of water. By the time the bath water was up to the overflow and causing trouble, well over half an hour had passed. At that time, at 6:30, the murderer was establishing his alibi.
I see. It's clever. But who was responsible? I mean, who did kill my wife? Inspector, who is the murderer?
What the...
Ken, Dr. Raven. It isn't you. It can't be.
I see you're holding the diary, too.
Yes, but I didn't find it. He did.
But that's young Jim Macy, lying there on the floor.
That's right. I thought you wouldn't get here on time, Inspector. So I hid myself behind the door until after Jim Macy entered with his own key, had rummaged about in the desk and found the diary. Then I'm afraid I had to knock him out.
Heavens, for one horrible moment I thought you'd killed Elaine.
Yeah, the doc was on my list of suspects, too. He had access to the flats, and being a doctor, no one questioned his comings and goings. The fact that his first name, Kenneth, began with a K, like your own, also made me suspicious. Initial K was signed on the note accompanying the first bouquet of flowers. But I think if Doc wanted to kill Elaine, he would have done so in a far simpler manner.
Yes, you're right, of course. I didn't kill Elaine. This young man did. He was her unknown lover. He was planning to desert her and marry Christine Larwood. Elaine found out this and started making scenes. Miss Larwood comes from a very respectable, rich family. Elaine was the sort of woman who loved to make scenes. She threatened a scandal, and Macy knew the only way he could stop it was to kill her and throw the blame on you, Keith.
I'm still not quite
Macy
clear.
sent her flowers. He switched cards in the rubbish bin later, insinuating that you were calling. He came in here earlier last night, forced his way into the bathroom, and killed Elaine by grabbing her by the ankles and holding her head under the water.
Then, having seen Miss Larwood off on the 6:30 train, he was clever enough to turn up here with yet another bunch of flowers. Nice touch.
Yes, but how did you find all this out?
We knew we'd have to trick him, so we spread around the story of a missing diary. We knew if he came back to search for it, he would be guilty.
I see. So all this was written down in Elaine's diary after all?
Oh, no. No, there is no diary. That's the doc's petty cash book. We planted it here earlier, just a hunch. But unlike the petty cash, I think it balances out. Don't you, Doc?
The makers of Bayer Aspirin, Insto Eye Drops, and Phillips Tablets invite you to join them again next Tuesday night at 7:30 as the moment of destiny approaches in the 11th hour.
You follow